Oh, I just realized my mic is off. Well, just another in a series of unfortunate events, but I am here either way. Gonna get right to it. Hope you're all having a great day so far. Hope not to ruin it. Okay. We are gonna start. Actually, hold on. I have to do one thing first. Okay. We're gonna start it off here with something from the past. I guess you might call it a protest speech from a U.S. soldier by the name of oh shit. Why don't I have his name in front of me right now? I'm killing my buzz.
In a snowstorm in 20...
Mike Prisoner. Pretty milquetoast Super Tuesday, but you did your part, so don't worry about ruining your day. Okay, alright, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I actually do plan on touching on Super Tuesday, but it's really just so unimportant it feels like right now with the options that have been thrust upon us. And yeah, let's see here. So yeah, we're gonna start this off just to get a vibe, as I often do.
In a snowstorm in 2010, a young soldier named Mike Prisner, speaking without notes, became a legend with a spontaneous speech which identified the gulf between the real America and the America of the military media industrial complex. Every word he said echoes louder than ever today.
Susan Brothers, thanks everyone for being here. We're from the organization March Forward, and we're here to say to all those serving in the Army and the Marines and the Air Force and the Navy that you have the absolute right to refuse to take part in these criminal wars, and that's a right that all of you should exercise. You have no reason to go put your life on the line and kill and die for profit. We've been to Iraq, we've been to Afghanistan, and we know what these wars are really about. And we joined the military for many reasons. Because we need a college education, because we need a job, because we need health care. And then we join the military, and they tell us that our enemies are poor people in caves in Afghanistan, or poor people in the deserts of Iraq. But we've been to those countries, and we know that our enemies are not other poor people abroad. Our enemies are the people that laid us off from our jobs, that denied us health care, that make it impossible to get an education. Our enemies are not in the poorest countries on the planet, but right here in the richest one. Now these wars, the occupations of Iraq and Afghanistan alone, are costing over $700 million every single day. This is a crime. Every single day, while so many of us are hurting. Well, I think all of us here, and the vast majority of people in this country, would agree that we can spend $700 million a day better than bombing people that we have no reason to bomb. We can spend $700 million a day rebuilding those countries we've destroyed. We can spend $700 million a day caring for the veterans we get home when they get home. And then we can spend $700 million a day giving every single person health care, a college education, a job, and a livelihood, and a home. That's what we need to be spending our money on. But this government is not going to do that. They're not going to use the money in that way. They're not going to end the wars. And they're not going to do it because it's not our government. It's their government. It's a government of the rich. It's a government of Wall Street, of the oil giants, of the defense contractors. It's their government, and the only language that they understand is shutting down business as usual. And that's what we're doing here today, and we're going to continue to do until these wars are over. Well, it's crystal clear now that these wars are going to continue and expand and go into other countries. That is the trend. That is what we know, that there is perpetual war, and it's only going to stop if the people stand up and stop it. And that's what we're going to do, sisters and brothers. And a lot of people ask me, what do we do? Because we all know things are bad. We all see the atrocities on TV. We read about it. We experience it. People always ask, what do I do? Because we always want to know what to do. Do we vote? Do we support a politician? Do we join an organization? What do we do? Well, I'll tell you what we do. It's simple. We fight. We fight and we fight and we fight, and we shut down our workplaces. We shut down our schools. We shut down the streets. We shut down business as usual, and we fight until we force the people in there to do what the people out here want, because that's how we're going to get around, and we're going to fight until there's not one more bomb drop, not one more bullet fired, not one more soldier coming home in a wheelchair, not one more family slaughtered, not one more day of U.S. imperialism. So let's fight to make that happen. We can do it today, and then in days ahead, we have to fight to end these wars and create a better world, sisters and brothers. So join us in that fight. Thanks.
Yeah, B-Cat. Still fire. It's been, I think, I mean, I know that video was uploaded 6 years ago, but I'm pretty sure it's from, like, over 10 years ago. Still very fire, though. Still very fire. And I know I happen to be competing with Matt Bender and some other people who are still streaming right now, and that's, it's on me. I didn't expect Matt to go live. I knew Vanguard was live. I was like, they've been going for a while. Maybe they'll be done soon. And then Matt went live, and I was like, oh, good. That's helpful to me right now. Either way, let's press on. Staying in America. This is something I saw yesterday, which I'm not going to watch all of because it's quite long. But this is a TRT film called Unzipped, an autopsy of American inequality.
Venice will give you whatever you want. You just have to be careful of what you wish for.
As an artist, Venice has never ever let me down. And I always look to this place as like the first home for me.
Venice really holds us, but
everything is just super explosive right now.
Venice, where art meets eviction.
Venice is a creative, beautiful space. It's playful, it's inclusive, kind of silly.
It was an intentional beach community of color.
Oh, Vanguard is done and Bender, but Bender's still alive. Yeah, understandable. I wasn't sure. I mean, I was just kind of paying attention to it before I went live. But yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. I have a ton of stuff to do right now, and pretty sure I was telling you about in Discord about all this stuff I've been working on. This freaking Sam Harris video I'm working on. It's nuts. I mean, he must claim, and the thing is that's so interesting about it is that he released it on YouTube 5 days after October 7th, and basically most of what he postulated has either like that he postulated wouldn't happen has happened, and vice versa. And I've been scrubbing the internet for, not scrubbing, but scraping the internet for videos and pictures and all this other sort of like documents to disprove all of his bullshit. It's been crazy.
I got boxes full of Pepe.
Venice is a creative, beautiful space. It's playful, it's inclusive, kind of silly.
It was an intentional beach community.
But by the way, because of the fact that I've been working on that video, I have barely watched any of these, so...
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Color.
Venice, it is the most extreme income inequality in all neighborhoods across the city. We're in a crisis.
The Venice art scene today is brutal. People are getting gentrified out of their spaces.
The surf shops, everything's changing.
In the span of 2 or 3 years, Venice encountered 2 decades worth of gentrification. It was like an explosion.
This city has always been extremely racist.
The affordable housing crisis is unimaginable.
Goodbye, middle class.
60,000 people are now homeless in LA County.
The splitting of the haves and the have-nots right in front of you.
Where will they sleep? They'll end up like the 918 people who passed away on the streets of Los Angeles last year.
We're in a war zone.
I don't think we're in a housing crisis. We're in a drug epidemic. There are a lot of mentally unstable people.
Why is it that Venice is having to absorb these crazy people here?
The rest of the world looks to the United States as one of the biggest perpetrators of human rights abuses against its own people.
Your zip code may be more...
Looks like TRT World is going to get involved in some sort of right-wing bullshit here. Let's see what happens.
And then your genetic code.
Don't hate me because I'm poor.
It's inhumane that allows so many people to live in squalor conditions when there's so much wealth. It's not American.
Are we a proud country? Are we proud of our citizens?
It does smell like it, doesn't it? It really does. Like, and the thing is, you can't forget that TRT World is a Turkish broadcast, and Turkey is run by Erdogan, who is not the best. He's not exactly a bastion of democratic thinking. Couldn't be more fucking American. Yeah, and once again, I don't intend on watching this whole thing. I literally haven't watched any of it, but yeah, no, just it seemed like an interesting, or something that's of interest to me, and I just wanted to check this out with people. Well, that's all true, I would say. Rising income inequality and systemic racism have created the widest wealth gap in U.S. history. Venice, California, 90291, like many zip codes across the country, struggles with a growing affordable housing crisis. That all checks out so far, but I do feel like they're going to take a right-wing turn on this at some point.
We really come out here just to make money. Being from Detroit, I never grew up around oceans, so I was instantly attracted to the ocean here.
I believe one of them needs to be changed.
As long as the sun is out and I can get some paint and some work done and the kids are cool, that's a good day to me. Spent a lot of time outside, so a lot of my stuff can be related to the ruggedness and rawness of being outdoors.
I mean, I feel like
my job is
and like I don't have any prepared pictures or anything like this, but I feel like even just like shots like this highlight the gentrification of this neighborhood, because I remember what Venice Beach used to look like not that long ago, and like they were saying before, in a couple of years they've had multiple decades worth of gentrification. And it definitely, it looks like it. It looks completely different. It used to be a very sort of, what you would call it, like a bohemian sort of place. And this looks like Miami.
By that somehow. I used to do call center work. I used to do stock. I used to be a retail manager. I mean, I've done all types of jobs. It wasn't until I became homeless was when I truly, really learned how to like produce art.
It's pretty hard. Some of the most challenging times was like not having money to wash clothes or money to get around. When it started to rain, we didn't have anywhere to go, so we just had to keep the children dry and warm.
Years ago, I was living in a boarding house that became uninhabitable, and we were forced out. And I just had to cut my losses and go to the streets.
One of the biggest misconceptions of people out on the street is that somehow we're not human. All we want is $1 or to harm someone without reason. You know, they swear all of us are either drug addicts or mentally ill, and there are a lot of mentally ill people in the world.
I met Nicole on the beach. And ever since the first night we met, we've been by each other's side ever since.
Oh god, it's difficult to watch somebody just set up on a sidewalk like this with a tent with nowhere else to go.
I pretty much set up the tent whenever she's ready to sit down for the day. It could be broad daylight. If she's tired, I don't matter where I'm at, I'm gonna set the tent up.
It's crazy that people have to live like this with a child in America. It is disturbing. God. Hey, Mona. Good to see you.
I'm sorry.
I apologize.
I'm sorry. I went too fast. When you're outside, anything can happen. Your nerves is just so sensitive to everything. And it's very hard to get a good night's rest when you're outside with your kids.
It's ridiculous. This is gross. That is freaking gross. Well, I gotta be honest. I know that we were skeptical about this documentary with the way that the intro started, but I'm feeling like they're doing a decent job on it. A whole family in a town on the sidewalk. Yeah, exactly. It's gross. It is gross. By the way, Moanub, I don't know if you heard, but I've been working on a video, and so I haven't actually been doing a whole lot of research like I should be. Although I guess they're both things that I should kind of be doing for this channel, because I do want to make like longer form, like, but what do you call it? Like actual, like non-streamed stuff that I can put on the channel as well. Like I've been meaning to clip things that I do, but it's difficult to try and like clip between all the random bits of me talking about nothing. But yeah, I should be done with it hopefully by tomorrow, fingers crossed. But that means I have not done like the kind of research I should have today.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I just clipped that, so I might be using that. We do have a housing crisis, but not because of a lack of homes, insatiable corporate greed. Yeah, and it's not even just corporate greed. There are people who are rich enough to own vast swaths of like real estate and land and homes, like that, you know, would otherwise be getting used to its fullest extent, but instead they either use it for Airbnb, or they're so rich they don't even have to Airbnb it, or they're super rich but they want to be even richer, so they do in fact Airbnb it, and they don't rent it because you can make more money and you can come back to your house like it's yours, and it's a systemic problem. Good job researching. Don't say that. Don't say that yet. I was doing a bunch of research, but just not on today's stream. It was for a separate thing. And if I run out of content, I might very well just start working on that in front of everybody, to be perfectly honest. You agree it didn't turn right like you expected? It hasn't yet, but it's a long video. We're not going to watch all of it, but we're going to watch some more of it. Yeah, agreed. I mean, I know some people who bought up a building that used to be like, what do you call it? Like section, is it not, it's not section 8, but it's like, it's when they keep it, like the rent, is rent like a rent stabilized, like building, and then like checked the laws and then started Airbnb every single like apartment that they could out of it, like, because it doesn't have to be fully occupied by rent stabilized apartments, so they just use a loophole to circumvent it, and then, you know, jack up, artificially jack up rents, because they're not even renting most of these times. You know, these Airbnbs aren't regular apartments. Yeah. No, you got what I'm saying. Like rent controlled. Yeah.
Put some hot water on. We've been here now about 6 months. It's part of Jim Budman's studios. Jim opened the door to this place and he says, go to work. Free of rent. I was ready to make a body of work. Nice, guys. I like that one. He saw what we were going through and how we were in need of a space. He loves our family. Of course, he loves the kids. You know, we love Jim. Throughout the years, he's always had artists here. It's become a residency in a way and a savior for some artists who are making just enough to survive but can't afford the rents to thrive in Venice. It's like these guys sitting on the bed. You want to draw one?
We have a glamping kitchen, I like to call it.
God.
We do have just a regular bathroom, but no shower. But however, the hot water isn't working right now. At times, I feel like it brings us closer together, and then, you know, we kind of build up walls, and we don't have a lot of personal space, so that does make it difficult.
It's real hot. Now blowing it. I've been on this street on Sunset since I was 17 years old. I used to pay $100 a month rent. I wish I still had a studio there, but they decided to develop the property.
We just keep instilling them that home is where we are all together.
Let's go for a walk. I'm ready because I want to start working.
Yeah, rolling.
Ideally, it would be great to have a place in Venice, but the rates
That's
are
a
just
crazy number. I didn't even know that number was that big.
Start
Did
working.
you see that?
Yeah, rolling.
Childcare costs for the average American worker have increased 2,000% in the past 40 years. 2,000%? That is a lot.
Ideally, it would be great to have a place in Venice, but the rates are just so high. So I don't know if we're going to be able to find what we really need in this area, but we're still hopeful.
Who did that top? That's It's a piece of glass, right?
And the thing is, I look at them and I'm like, holy fuck, you got like 5 people in a 1-bedroom? At least that's what it looked like. And like that seems nuts. But then you think about the people on the street in the tent. And it's just it's crazy.
Liz Marks did that one. Auntie Liz, right? Yeah. And there's the stingrays. There's flying fish. There's grunions. You know, remember the grunion run? These are the mosaics I did back in 2000. I started them in 1995, commissioned by the city of Los Angeles. It's been a long time, man. They're cracking up. But these are all handmade. They're Venice made.
Being an artist is
When
tough.
it comes to Attaway's work, he's always creating something. He very rarely takes a day off. We're hoping with this new body of work, it's really strong and really different, and we're hoping that we can have a very professional presentation to some of the more well-known galleries where they're bringing in the buyers of art. We don't want to short sell anymore. Like, we don't want to sell his work for nothing just because we need to survive.
Good morning, Los Angeles.
My family's been in Venice since '65. I like working on boards. It's actually fun when you see people get that stoke of getting their board back and it looks...
Okay, alright. I think we've seen probably enough of this. Is like 10 minutes in.
Venice, describing it to somebody is like trying to tell somebody surfing, get in a barrel. Can't really explain it.
I think we all are pretty aware of American inequality, and yeah, at least those 2 stories were kind of difficult to watch. The first one more than the second one, to be honest, but probably should have done more research, but that's my life. Anyway, next video is actually a more perfect union video. I don't know if you're all familiar with that channel, but I'm a fan. I'm a fan of them, and they've been doing pretty good lately.
Horrifying.
And this
Do not
video,
have running
I
water.
couldn't help myself but click on. This just came out yesterday. It's called "In This Town, Only the
Horrifying.
Rich Get Water."
To not have running water. You put everything you have into buying a place here. That dream of, I get to give my house to my kid when I pass away, ripped right out from under me. I'm a disabled vet. Can't afford to go anywhere. And the people that...
Wait, what do you want to
into-
force Anna to watch? The last video we were watching?
taking this from us, they're rich. They're really rich.
In Arizona, like most of the American West, water is running out.
Extreme drought that has invaded the state.
Worst in 1,200 years.
Historic water cuts to multiple states are now possible.
But even as water supplies are dwindling, some people have more access than others.
The amount of water that they're using is just unreal.
This is corrupt. It's just corrupt and another tactic of war.
I don't know how they have the heart to do it.
Across the country, battle lines are being drawn between rural communities and massive agricultural firms. And there's one community here in southern Arizona at the center of it all.
Yeah, they're cool to watch when they're flying around in their little formations or clouds. It's pretty cool. I've lived here about 10 years now. Thought it was a beautiful place. Good weather. Helped with my pain problems. Then it went south.
Vance Williams had hoped to live in Pierce, Arizona for the rest of his life. But in 2020, his well ran dry, leaving him without running water in his house for 6 months.
This is the water tank I had to buy Once I realized how big the problem was, we were living on 5-gallon jugs of water before that.
How much does something like this cost?
That was, I believe, right around $3,000. Took every penny I had extra and some that I didn't. Some of it went on to credit cards.
For a long time,
Damn.
Pierce was a quiet town of family farms and people
Imagine going broke just to get water. Nuts.
looking to retire surrounded by mountains. But 10 years ago, that started to change. A company from Minnesota bought a local dairy farm with big plans to transform the landscape.
They just kind of took off and got bigger and bigger.
The company is called Riverview, and since 2014, they've spent more than $160 million buying up land around Pierce. To understand just how much they've transformed the landscape, you have to see it from the sky. Riverview now owns 55,000 acres of land. They use it to grow alfalfa, enough to feed 150,000 cattle. And that requires a lot of water. Before Riverview came to town, the dairy farm here used about 61 million gallons of water per year. But by 2022, Riverview's massive operation was using more than 14 times that.
Holy shit.
Roughly 900 million gallons. And it wasn't long before their neighbors started to feel the effects.
1 billion gallons of water.
You know,
I feel like
when a
Dr.
parasite or a
Evil
virus looks for a
when I say a number like that. 1 billion gallons. Or actually, how does he talk? A billion gallons. No, I can't do it. I can't even think of what he sounds like.
the host, that's what's going on here.
Tracy Page lives just over a mile from one of Riverview's alfalfa fields. Her well dried up last July.
What did it feel like to be going through something like that, having no water?
It's a horrible feeling. I don't do
This should be illegal. This should be illegal, what they're doing. They're depriving an entire community of water. And it should genuinely be illegal. But if I'm not mistaken, laws in most places allow it. For instance, like Poland Springs, who else? I think like Evian, maybe, or at least there's a couple of like huge water bottlers that take water from the Great Lakes, at basically just at ad nauseum.
Amusement park rides. But I would imagine that free fall is actually closest to what it feels like. Because it just feels like I have no safety net. I get that some of it's nature. I get I moved to the desert. I get it. But this state is mismanaged. They're allowing people with the most money to do whatever they want.
When it comes to water laws, Arizona is still pretty much the Wild West.
So the needle is going to show us the moment we touch the water. So right now it is out of the water. And then now it's in the water there.
The state started monitoring water levels in 1980, after a landmark law created new conservation rules, like limiting the amount of water farms could use.
You don't want to buy a home in an area that doesn't have the water to sustain you or your kids or your grandkids. There are checks and balances in place for locals so mom and pops, their wells don't go dry.
But here's the catch. The 1980 law left out roughly 80% of the state. It basically just covered major cities and excluded rural areas. That's how Riverview is allowed to pump as much water as they want.
The advantage lies with the people who have the deep enough pockets to drill deep wells. As long as you own the land and you submit the paperwork, you can drill a well as big or as deep as you'd like.
And this is happening across the state, from a dairy farm owned by a Saudi prince.
It's so fucking gross. Wait, what did you just say? You see, it's this kind of like this kind of stuff that should make people mad. Not Mexicans at the border, looking for jobs. It should be literal princes from across the world legally coming here buying up water rights and taking them from you. That should concern you more. That's just me personally, you know. I'm just doing the math over here, if you will. But it does seem like this has a lot more effect. And also, if all the mostly Republican like landowners that hired illegal immigrants, like, there would be a different situation. There'd be a different a dynamic, right? But they don't. They don't, because they are just driven by profit incentives, right? So, you know, it's always talk out of one side of your mouth and then answer a question out of the other, and it just grosses me out. And that piece of information just shocked the fuck out of me. Like, what? The Saudis are stealing the water from Arizona. Not just them, but one of them.
To a New York-based investment firm.
Ooh, nice.
To a billion-dollar insurance company.
Ooh, insurance. Why are they buying water? Super weird.
Arizona's extremely lax regulatory environment has made it an ideal home for corporations looking to pump unlimited water.
What better deal? You can drill and get all the water you want.
Yeah.
And just build and build and build.
Sure.
With really not much concern on those of us that were here
Humans.
trying to
Yeah.
manage this water.
Yeah.
I was dumber than six rocks, Katie. I thought that the economy would always take care of it.
Oh, he thought the free market would take care of it. Bummer. Dang it, libertarianism. I thought that you were the fix-all for these things.
Curry is a fourth-generation farmer in Pierce. He and his team grow chili peppers on a 2,000-acre farm.
So let's go in here. I want
But like,
you to smell
like
the...
you hear that? That basically proved, not entirely, but quickly provided some evidence for what I just said. This guy genuinely believed in the market. The free hand of the market will solve this problem. The economy will take care of it. It's fucking nonsense words is what that is. That's somebody who watches Fox News on the regular. At least Fox Business. He's pretty old, so maybe Fox Business. Seriously, free market, you've screwed us.
When I open this door, okay?
Okay.
This is the effect.
Okay.
All right. There you go.
It smells amazing.
Yeah. This
genuinely looks delicious.
It's home to me. It'll always be home to me. I'll be buried here. I hope my kids are. I hope this is home for us for as long as we're on planet Earth. Water is critical. 3 hours on a hot afternoon in August, I can ruin a chili crop without right water. That's how critical it can be.
For the past few months, Ed's been working with lawmakers to...
You've been falling asleep at night to a playlist of Sam versus libertarians. Oh man, that is funny. I get the sentiment. I really do. That's classic. Should link that playlist in chat. Just messing. Okay, yeah, we'll finish this up.
Rest the loophole that leaves rural communities without water protections. What they came up with is a bill that would give residents the power to set guardrails for how water can be used. It could incentivize more efficient irrigation systems, or simply force companies to drastically reduce their consumption.
That local control is a huge...
Weird. It's like if you vote as a group on something for the better of the community, come to the right conclusion. Oh, it's crazy. My mind is blown.
It lets us kind of guide our ship. The overall plan, Katie, has to be that we shrink the water usage and that we make it more efficient.
You know what you should do? Like an ASMR, like rereading of Sam's libertarian debates. I feel like the two of you could do it. You could like incept people into realizing their flawed thinking.
For us, water's been kind of the center of a beautiful life. And I want that to continue.
Don't apologize. Why does that get you when you talk about the future and...
Because, Katie, the values that we learned on the farm around water and irrigation is who we are today. We were taught honesty. We were taught integrity. I don't want to lose that. And I want it available for other small farms, not just large corporate farms. Corporations don't have tears over it. They look at bottom line.
20 years ago, there was enough water in Pierce for residents to thrive. Today, it's code red. So it's worth asking.
Yeah, it's basically like ASMR lib hypnosis.
Look like 20 years from now, if companies like Riverview continue to get a free pass? And what would it take to change course?
We're supposed to adapt to all these corporations and these people with, you know, mass amounts of money, but they don't have to adapt to us. And that's not fair.
Somebody's got to decide that people are more important than money. The people that should be doing this, that we've elected to do this, are looking the other way. I personally think they all need to live off of 5-gallon jugs of water for a while and understand how devastating that is to somebody that thought they had a forever home.
I hope that 100 years from now, they know that we were right, that we were trying to make a difference so that this valuable desert, one of the last strongholds of water in the whole Southwest, came up with a bipartisan agreement that everybody came together out of care and concern for one another.
You're curious about who the reps are for this town? It's a good question. I might look it up here.
Is it a dream? Probably. But is it possible? Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see more videos like this one.
Absolutely.
And if you have ideas for stories you want us to cover.
If any of you aren't subscribed to A More Perfect Union, find them and subscribe before it's too late. They're a great channel. Great channel. They make amazing content. And I honestly don't know how they're getting it done. Like, they must have a budget in some way. But they absolutely exploded. What was I doing? Oh, right. I was going to look up who represents Pierce, Arizona. You already am. Well, does Pierce, Arizona just not exist? What's happening? Just gonna search Pierce, Arizona. Interesting. Well, I'm a little confused, if I'm being perfectly honest. This can't be right. Is this right? This might be right. I could be right. But weird. Okay, so I've looked up Pierce, Arizona, and I could be looking at the wrong Pierce, Arizona, but it claims that Pierce, Arizona is a ghost town. So I'm very confused how that's possible. Although, I guess you don't have to live there to farm there. So they may live in other places, but it supposedly was a mining town named for Cornishman James Pierce. And due to the discovery of gold nearby, became a Commonwealth mine in 1894. And in the 1930s became an almost ghost town when the mine closed for the last time. So I'm very confused what we just watched. I feel like we just watched a ghost video. What just happened? This is what happens when I don't research. I come up with nonsense like that. What does that even mean? I feel like they can't possibly be. We gotta be talking about something different. I'm so confused. Or maybe Maybe they're talking about. No, nope. I'm not even gonna try. It's too confused. I'm too confused now. Either way, I know that's a problem not just in Arizona, but in California. Oh, it also says this is happening all across Arizona. So I think they must have gone, like, they must have been talking about the few people left living in Pierce and then moved across Arizona without me noticing. Okay. Okay, Maggie Valley, NC is a ghost town too, but people live there. So yeah, okay, right. Yeah, okay, so maybe people do live there, and we're just being confused by this. I'm looking at Wikipedia, and that's my fault. That's my fault. Okay, we're going to this video from 2 hours ago. Oh, and then we're gonna do this. Actually, let me move this first. Sorry, chat.
It's horrifying.
not just
have
dead
water.
people. Thank you. That is reassuring.
You put everything you have.
Okay, this next video
Enough is enough. That's what tenant.
Probably going to explain itself, actually. So I'm just going to go straight to it. This is from ABC 7 New York.
An apartment building in the Bronx are saying loudly tonight, and with no small degree of anger.
They have been living in deplorable conditions, and they say they're fed up. Their building rife with black mold, holes in the wall, and lots of vermin.
But the worst part, they say, their landlord won't do anything about it. And that's why they are insisting they're now standing up for themselves and suing the landlord.
Eyewitness News reporter Janice Yu walked through that building to see for herself. She's live this evening in University Heights. Janice?
Hi there, Bill and Sandra. Yeah,
I gotta say, Janice's face is making me think that Janice just saw a ghost. Speaking of ghosts in chat. Like, she looked disturbed.
to walk through the apartment building as well as go inside some of the apartments, and you can understand why after seeing all of that, why these tenants are so frustrated. They say these conditions have existed for more than a decade now, and so some of them have actually taken it upon themselves to pay for the necessary repairs, while others say they've just had to learn to live with it.
The walls are just feel like they're gonna cave in.
What?
The sixth-floor apartment Nico shares with his friend at 220105 Davidson Avenue has been riddled with issues. A hole in the ceiling of the bathroom, paint and parts of the wall are coming off.
I started seeing like blooms of like mold in a way, so I did a lot to try to clean up the apartment, and in the meantime I even had to like get a shelter because of the different like health conditions that I have that were flaring up.
He's even started filling the apartment with plants to catch some of the falling water in the living room. And it's because of conditions
now
like
that is thinking out of the box. That's reuse, renew, recycle, whatever it is. That's how you do it, right there, folks.
The Legal Aid Society announced Tuesday it's filed a lawsuit against the owners on behalf of 25 tenants.
No justice, no peace. We need a place to sleep.
Asking not only for immediate repairs, but for the city to remove ownership from Romad Realty, David Kornitzer, and Dov Gutman.
They've completely dodged paying property taxes to the city of New York, to the point where the city of New York is now owed a debt of $24 million on this building.
Whoa! Whoa! That's a lot of money. $24 million. Yo, these... Now I'm starting to really... Not that I didn't see it already, but the evidence is stacking up here for why these people are suing. They don't seem to be on the ball at all.
500 open violations from the City Department of Housing Preservation and Development, and there are more than 80 open violations with the Department of Buildings, and the owners owe more than $300,000 in penalties. Councilwoman Parina Sanchez says the tenants were unsuccessful in trying to turn the building over to a nonprofit through the city's now suspended third-party transfer program. And in 2015, the city was ready to start foreclosing on the building, but the owners froze the proceedings by filing for bankruptcy.
Every single program that the city of New York has been used in this building, and look how they are living. To see a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old walking by with a wall of black mold, with a hole in their ceiling, That ain't right.
No, it is not. No, it is not. Is it just me, or does she kind of look like Sade? Okay, what's next? Oh, okay. Let's see. I think this is still live. So now that we've gotten through some of the American news, we're going to go direct to the Kornacki Cam Live. Watch Steve Kornacki's breakdown from Super Tuesday results, which are going to be super cool, I'll bet. Just because I'm pretty sure they have that music copyrighted, I'm going to mute that. I'm going to play our own music because fuck it. He wished them luck on it, but they're fighting up an uphill battle in many places around the country. Mold isn't a priority. Interesting. Yeah. Well, I stand with them at least. Haven't seen you before, Lords of Darkness. Welcome. How did you happen upon the stream? Wow. Nikki Haley beating Trump in Vermont. Shocking. Alright, let's actually go back and see what all's happened. Okay. Well, Trump was leading Haley in Vermont at one point. That's just the county of Arlington. Virginia, nothing in. He's crushing her. He's crushing her. There is Vivek. Is Rhymes with Cake still in the race? Is that real? Is that a joke? Come on, pal. Just give it up. Yeah, of course he's gonna crush her in Virginia. Oh no, is that yeah, it is Virginia. Yeah, with only 22% in, so you never know. She could, but this is an insurmountable lead, effectively. Well, actually not. No. They need 12-15. What am I talking about? I'm thinking of a completely different situation. A friend told you about the channel. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. I mean, I think the thing about this, and the reason why I said earlier I'm not going to really get too deep into this, is basically a foregone conclusion. Look, as the night goes on, he's now at 560. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. How is she going to win all that? She would have to take, I don't know the exact numbers and all this, but my guess is the whole North, right? And he's already beaten her in a bunch of places where you'd think maybe he wouldn't, but although, am I looking at this graph right? I can't read this stupid graphic. Why is this thing so tiny down here? Oh, does that say U.S. Virgin Islands? I think it does. Why don't you tell me what yellow and red means? I want to think that the red is for Trump. But the yellow, is that for Vivek? There's no way he's 3%, or 3 delegates with 4 states. That's not how that works. Maybe those are the other ones that are voting tonight. I think that must be what it is. Yeah, he's obliterating her right now. Good God. Yeah, and it looks like those are the other states that are voting. Not who won it. Okay, that's literally good enough. What was that, 5 minutes? Did not think that was going to be a lot of content, to be perfectly honest. But I figure since, you know, the situation is so ridiculous that we would just kind of poke fun at it quickly. Is this set up right? Let's see. Let's see if I've done my job.
And if you broke the law, you can't say that. I'm not gonna, I already said you will pay. The demonstrators who infiltrated the Capitol have defied the seat of justice. It's defiled, right? So I can't see it very well. But this election is now over. Congress has certified the results. I don't want to say the election's over. I just want to say Congress has certified the results without saying the election's over, okay? I would like to begin by addressing the heinous attack yesterday. Yesterday is a hard word for me. My only goal was to ensure the integrity of the vote. My only goal was to ensure the integrity of the vote.
Good God. I've never seen someone get so upset about reading before. That was like little kid antics. Am I right? It's like he's trying to read in front of the class and he's just struggling so hard.
He looks good and he looks hard.
Vincent Morales, good to see you. All right, now if you thought I was just going to poke fun at Trump, well, you sorely mistaken. I'm afraid.
We also need Ukraine to make changes to fix the broken immigration system here. We also need Congress to make the changes to fix the broken immigration system here at home.
We need Ukraine to fix the immigration system. Yep, that's right.
I'm of the view, as you know, that the conduct of the response in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip, has been over the top. I think that, as you know, initially, the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to
God damn it, Biden.
Humanitarian material to get in. I talked to him. I convinced him to open the gate. I talked to Bibi to open the gate on the Israeli side. I've been pushing really hard to get humanitarian.
Just shut up. Just shut up, okay? Oh my God, Wireless Mike, good to see you. Good fucking God. That's what we got, people. That's going to be our choices. 2024. The guy who yells at the teleprompter for having hard words like yesterday. Or Biden, who thinks El Sisi is the president of Mexico and Ukraine's in charge of our border policy. So you pick your poison. Sure, there's some more distinguishable differences between them, but we're not going to go over those right at this moment. Maybe, what did we go over? Yeah, the homeless housing problems and inequality, water problems in terms of farmers. Well, not really farmers, but extreme capitalists attempting to steal water from people in Arizona. And then ghosts. We discussed ghosts. Dang, Biden's already 51 in chat. That didn't take long at all. He's going to be like 100 real soon. Okay, next, Bedja. Okay, yeah. This is a AP? No, Reuters. El Nino weakens, excuse me. My brain just broke. El Nino weakens, temperature will stay high, says UN agency. The 2023-24 El Nino weather pattern is weakening, but will continue. That's according to the World Meteorological Organization, WMO, which said it was one of the 5 strongest in history.
And what we've seen with this El Nino, perhaps more than any other event in the past, is that it's fueled the heat trapped by greenhouse gases due to, as we all know, from human activities.
The weather phenomenon disrupts wind patterns and warms the surface of parts of the Pacific Ocean. It occurs on average every 2 to 7 years and can last up to 12 months, provoking extreme weather events. The WMO warns that El Nino alone is not responsible for climate change. Thank you, WMO.
Every month since June 2023 has set a new monthly temperature record, and 2023 was by far the hottest year on record. El Nino has contributed to these temperatures, but heat-trapping greenhouse gases are unequivocally the main culprit. The January 2024 sea surface temperature was by far the highest on record for a January. This is worrying, and it cannot be explained by El Nino alone.
Okay. Yes, ghosts. Ghosts wireless, Mike. It's very serious discussion. Okay. This is actually a completely horrific story that, as your stream lord of the galaxy, I figured I would at least enlighten you on, in case you happen to be in the places
As the moon is set to block up
where this will be seen. What in the fuck?
during a total solar eclipse.
There we go. Okay, that was weird. This is about the solar eclipse, which will be visible from Earth in approximately 3 days from now? 3 days. On the 8th.
As the moon is set to block out the sun during a total solar eclipse on April 8th, Canadian communities are blocking out the date in their calendars as they expect many to arrive in hopes of a glimpse of the celestial event. With that hope comes a need for a place to stay, and Airbnb says they've seen a 300% surge in searches for cities along the path of totality.
There's a huge amount of interest, and I think we'll see more and more people booking on Airbnb over the next month.
The popular platform notes as of February 25th, more than 50% of Canadian listings on the eclipse's path were still available. A total solar eclipse occurs when the moon passes between the sun and Earth in perfect...
What a ridiculous situation. Oh my god. People are just buying Airbnbs to see the freaking... Oh my...
alignment.
We live in a crazy world, people. Your mom told you that your cousin posted one of those Facebook text boxes this morning that said, "I don't believe in climate change." Oh, that's good. So good and so great.
Blocking the sunlight and plunging those in the path of...
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
Totality into darkness. That path in Canada stretches from parts of southern Ontario and Quebec to Atlantic Canada, with cities like Kingston, Ontario, Montreal, Quebec, and Miramichi, New Brunswick all in the line of sight. The last time the path of a total solar eclipse crossed Canada was in 1979, but it's the first time in nearly 700 years that Kingston has been in this path, and Ashley Bradshaw with Tourism Kingston says excitement is building.
Our hotel partners have been reporting an increase in occupancy as early as fall of 2023.
Oh my god, her mic is terrible.
And we do suspect that...
Ew, stop that.
Into darkness. Science journalist Dan Falk will be in Texas and says he hopes many will be able to experience it.
Or if the weather cooperates, the sky should turn a nice deep blue, like a very deep twilight, and it's like there's a little hole in the sky where the moon is blotting out the sun's light just for a few moments. But it'll be this very eerie kind of surreal phenomenon that's really not like anything else you can see.
The eclipse is expected to occur during mid and late afternoon, depending where you are in Canada. The Canadian Space Agency, however...
Anyway, just figured I would let you all in on that. I'm trying to avoid doing what I was thinking of later, but it might happen. Might fucking happen. Do I do this? Yeah, let's just blaze through this, because yesterday we really didn't do this. Might as well. Same sort of situation as the solar eclipse. Yesterday there was the SpaceX, NASA combined mission to the ISS. And we're just going to speed through this video. Probably watch it on like...
The boost burn put our crew in an orbit where Dragon's apogee, or the...
Probably watch it fast.
highest point will be 10 kilometers lower than the station. After that, we executed the close co-elliptic burn at 4:54 p.m. Pacific time. The close burn placed Dragon on an orbit roughly co-elliptic with the space station.
Did you get Maggie Valley, North Carolina ghost town commercials? I have no idea what that is.
Meaning it was maintaining an orbit roughly 10 kilometers lower than the station the entire way around the Earth. That's in contrast to only being 10 kilometers lower than the station during Dragon's apogee, or the highest point in its orbit, which is achieved by the boost burn.
From there, at 6:44 p.m. Pacific, we executed the fourth major maneuver known as the transfer burn. This is where we're raising Dragon's apogee, or highest point of its orbit, to just 2.5 kilometers lower than space station. Then we rounded everything out with a final co-elliptic burn at 7:31 p.m. Pacific to once again maintain a constant orbit lower than the space station, this time just 2.5 kilometers below. This was a shorter burn, lasting just over 30 seconds.
During the approach, SpaceX flight controllers will work in tandem with the NASA team in Houston to maneuver Dragon Endeavour to the proper attitude. They will initialize the navigation sensors used for the methodical approach to station. They'll also activate and test out a number of systems on Dragon, including bidirectional communications with the station using the C2V2 system. C2V2 stands for Common Communications for Visiting Vehicles. It sets up a data stream from Dragon to the station, giving another path for Dragon telemetry to come to the ground and giving an additional command capability to astronauts aboard the station.
At approximately 10:03 p.m. Pacific, Draco thrusters on Dragon will fire for the...
The nose cone opens shortly after launch to expose the forward bulkhead thrusters and docking mechanism that will connect with the space station. Dragon's trunk holds solar cells, which power Dragon while it's in free flight, and the trunk can also carry unpressurized cargo.
Dragon has 16 Draco thrusters that can be used in space to help navigate the spacecraft to its destination. Each provides about 90 pounds of force, but that doesn't include the 8 Super Draco thrusters used for an abort, which are no longer active once the crew is in orbit.
And for those of you following along, you'll know that the Dragon spacecraft has played a significant role in advancing our future in space by safely transporting crew to and from the International Space Station. There are currently 4 Dragon spacecraft supporting human spaceflight missions that have docked to the station. That's Endeavour, Resilience, Endurance, and Freedom.
Fun.
That we didn't even know existed without finding them first in space. That includes mechanisms to lower your blood volume to adapt to a weightless environment, mechanisms that store sodium in your body, which we didn't know existed, ways that the human can control its cardiovascular system that we didn't know existed.
Every single human that's ever been born and ever died has all happened on our planet Earth. And if we want to continue the light of consciousness further, we need to make ourselves planetary.
Just
Go
since
further
we're
we
about 30
won't. Go
minutes
further we
schedule,
must.
just wanted to point out the
We
shutter
want to have
constraints
that
and the
next
access
act
constraints,
as
those are all be going
much
to the
as
left.
possible, and our mission will definitely contribute to that.
Station copies.
And so we did hear a call out about some exercise constraints for the crew on board the the starboard and port South Pacific Ocean. But yeah, we'll continue to see the International Space Station come into better and better view. You can see some of the solar arrays and some of the modules, but again, I'm looking forward to seeing it come into more detail and us sharing a bit more about what you're seeing on your screen. And you can see it if you squint between the clouds there, that little white dot, that is Dragon with crew 8 on board. We'll, again, continue to see this grow larger, but great to see those very first views.
Visor that pivots open, which you may see when we see the crew when they open and close their visors. The quick disconnect, or QD, on the right thigh mates to an umbilical on the seat. This is what provides the air ventilation, oxygen, nitrox for pressurization, and allows the electronics to be connected all from a single location on the suit. A tubing network inside of the suit also delivers air to the neck and limbs to keep the crew cool while wearing the suit, because it is, covering them, probably keeping them a bit warm, so the air flowing through helps keep them cool. The suit's communication system consists of helmet. Sandra, you mentioned orbital.
I gotta say, I'm glad that we didn't watch this whole
those
thing
patches, 'cause
live
it's such a
yesterday. It is painfully boring. I thought it'd be more exciting. I thought they'd do something cool.
There will also be an
Like a skid stop.
Capture.
What are you doing?
Are looking forward to docking at 11:28 p.m. Pacific time, just about 8 minutes from now. Let's head back over to Mission Control Houston and check in with Anna to see how things are going over there.
Thanks, Sandra. Right now, the team here in the International Space Station Flight Control Room is actually conducting the go-no-go poll for docking. And then the crew aboard the International Space Station.
Houston and Hawthorne have pulled go for docking. Confirm you are ready for approach 2. We are setting the approach.
hooks to drive in place, and there's 2 sets of
They
hooks.
look like
There'll be
EV suits
6
from
to
Star
start,
Trek. You're right.
followed
They
by
do.
another 6.
They do look like it. Okay. I'm officially tired of the situation. We're moving to this. Hey, look, they're on the space station now. Yay.
All right, copy all. You can actually defer Section 5 until after you re-enter to finish the configuration. No concerns there. Just be aware that we will not have the hatch seal covers installed, nor are we going to install the IMV duct. So just like be careful as you're translating. And then
yeah, I'm pretty sure BCAT lives south of the Mason-Dixon line, so she's got some real stuff to overcome over there. Okay, that's enough of that video. Thank you very much. On to more serious things. And that concludes... I felt like the best way to interject between the, as usual, American coverage to the national or international coverage now. So we're going to move on to a video from 3 months ago as a way to lead up into a video from just a few hours ago about Argentina.
Coming from the far right, Javier Milei won a convincing victory in yesterday's presidential election with a promise to...
Whoa, pal.
Sharply...
That's my bad. Hold on.
Coming from the far right, Javier Milei won a convincing victory in yesterday's presidential election with a promise to sharply cut government spending and tackle the country's worst economic crisis in decades. Says he'll bring a chainsaw to the economy. In fact, he brought a chainsaw to many of his campaign rallies as a prop. Also, he cloned his dog. That's what he's known for. Ed O'Keefe has this very strange story.
A massive political shakeup in Argentina. Javier Milei, far-right economist and television personality, joined the political fray just 3 years ago.
This guy seriously weirds me out.
Don't be creepy.
Now he's in charge of the third largest economy in Latin America, as it teeters on the edge of disaster.
Porque hoy comienza la reconstrucción de Argentina.
Milei rode to power on a wave of popular discontent over a stagnating economy with a 40% poverty rate and inflation nearing 150%. This woman says she supports Milei because she's looking for change in Argentina, a country she says has been suffering from years of decadence. He became known for his unorthodox showmanship during the campaign.
I don't know if you can copyright just a pillar, but damn, does that look like the Washington Monument?
He became known for his unorthodox showmanship during the campaign, wielding a chainsaw to symbolize his war on government spending, threatening vital public services. Afuera! And printing a picture of a US dollar bill with his face on it, part of a widely criticized campaign to use the US dollar as Argentina's currency. The self-described anarcho-capitalist has also advocated for eliminating the country's central bank. Milei's controversial tirades against the political class have drawn comparisons to neighbor Brazil's former president Jair Bolsonaro.
Yeah, they should be best friends at this point. Now, the reason we're watching this old video is to provide context and to sort of evoke in your mind these images that may have already faded in your memory of Milei and his insane antics. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills! And so, you know, it's going to come into contrast here with this next video.
Deborah Blanco has lived for years with her 8 children in a house on the outskirts of Buenos Aires with no proper door or windows, nor electricity, running water, or sewers. Now she doesn't have enough food to eat either.
I don't think it's going to be possible to survive. I don't think people will be able to survive in the next 5 or 6 months, as the government says. I don't think people will be able to make ends meet.
Argentina's poverty rate topped 57% at the start of the year, one recent study showed, with millions like Blanco battling triple-digit inflation and a sharp devaluation of the peso in December that sapped the real value of people's money.
Let's remember that devaluation of the Argentinian peso was completely manufactured, right? It was done by now President Milei. He said he was going to do it, and that's what he was talking about with pegging it to the dollar, because the dollar is much has always been worth quite a lot more to a Argentinian peso. I think it's something pretty staggering, honestly. I'd have to look it up right now to know the exact number, but the last time I checked, I think it might have been as, you know, as crazy as something like 100 to 1.
American country's poor barrios looms large over new Libertarian President Javier Milei's aggressive austerity drive as he seeks to overturn a deep deficit and tame inflation over 250% before losing popular support. His plans include slashing the size of government, trimming back subsidies for fuel and transportation, shutting state institutions, and auditing welfare programs. Augustin Salvia is a researcher on poverty at the Catholic University of Argentina.
The social safety net is weakening in terms of food. If we are talking,
I just did the math on it. Well, not the math. I just pulled up the graph of it. Holy shit. Holy fucking shit. This is nuts, people. Okay, hold on. You can take a break and look at what I'm talking about. Hold the phone. This is crazy. Wow. Okay. So this is the graph of the US dollar to Argentinian peso. It's currently at 1 to 844, and not that the 15 cents matters, but if you trade in 1 US dollar, you get 845 pesos. I guess the time that I was referring to would have been somewhere back here, where it was in fact 100 to 1 back in 2021. But since he took office, you see this straight up line right here. That's around the time he took office. And then he switched it to the dollar, and it went from 364 to blam, 844. That's a massive increase. That is nuts. Well, it was good to see you, Lord of Darkness. Glad to have you. Okay, let's finish that video. I just wanted to give some context for what we're even talking about. Play.
About the fact that at the same time, there is a recession, there is stagnation, there is no longer enough work or jobs to compensate for price increases. And not only real, but nominal household income is falling.
BCAT is right. I do love my graphs.
Obviously, what we are having is a process of severe impoverishment.
It has reached a desperate stage for residents along food lines like this one, according to Pastor Leonardo Alvarez, who volunteers here.
Since November, we have not stopped demanding food for you from the national government. Unfortunately, during this time, the response has been negative. Today, we will make the last delivery, and I ask you to receive what we have. We will continue to fight. Count on us. We will not give up.
Okay, that was all I wanted to touch on there, but I think it does kind of provide some context for how Milei's presidency is being received, in Argentina, with people who are struggling to make ends meet. So you can imagine if you were already struggling, having things cost literally 3 times as much in a short month-long period, almost a little bit longer, but it's so drastic. I mean, it's like Nigeria level, I think. I'm trying to think of what countries have had the worst. Like, it's like Cyprus, practically. Okay, what's next? Okay. This is just a quick one, keeping up with the war in Ukraine. This is footage from the AP showing the aftermath of a battle in Odessa. Terrifying. Now, unfortunately, this video doesn't give any context for whether or not there are people there, if anybody was injured, casualties and whatnot. Didn't really give anything of that sort, unfortunately, but I figured it was just important for us to at least be keeping up with it. And yeah, that was only from 16 hours ago, so that's how things are going in Ukraine. And I feel like you probably all know the deal at this point. We're working our way to Palestine. So, spoiler alert, we're about 3 videos away from that. Next, we're going to Iran, and how the elections on Iran have affected their currency. So everybody's having currency problems.
This video is brought to you by Nebula. On Friday, Iranians went to the polls to elect their legislature and the
By the way, if that wasn't clear enough for you, this video is from TLDR Global News. Check them out. They do some pretty good stuff, I would say, generally speaking.
Assembly of experts. The result was never really in doubt.
Oh no, Monob's not feeling well. Feel better. Feel better. I'm sorry that you're not feeling well.
The Ayatollahs have banned anyone apart from the most hardline loyalist candidates. But the appallingly low turnout and the promise of another few years of economic mismanagement from the supreme leader and his cronies put further pressure on Iran's currency, the rial, which fell to an all-time low of 600,000 to the dollar on Saturday morning, before the Ayatollahs ordered exchange bureaus to stop publishing their rates. So in this video, we're going to have a look at Iran's ongoing currency crisis, why it got worse over the weekend, and why it's only going to get worse in the near future. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. So, to understand Iran's currency crisis, you need to know a bit about Iran's exchange rate system. This story really begins in 2018, when then President Trump withdrew from the JCPOA nuclear deal and imposed a series of financial and oil-related sanctions on Iran. The Iranian economy wasn't in great shape before that, and the Iranian currency, the rial, had been declining basically ever since the 1979 revolution. But Trump's attack put renewed pressure on the currency.
How is Iran still even like doing things? I had no idea just how much it had devalued its currency. 30,000 to 1 back here. Oh my god.
Which had been trading at about 30,000 to the dollar since 2015. Originally, the Iranian government tried to maintain Iranian purchasing power by basically denying that the rial was declining, keeping the official exchange rate at about 38,000 rial to the dollar. Unsurprisingly, this didn't work. If anything, the policy probably had the opposite effect, because it just reduced confidence in the rial, and the gap between the government's official rate of 38,000 rial and the actual market rate offered by Iranian currency bureaus started widening. Even before Trump had officially withdrawn from the JCPOA, the market rate was about 55,000 rial.
Holy shit. Yeah, that's bad.
To the dollar, implying that the rial was roughly 30% less valuable than the official exchange rate. In April 2018, the government tried to solve this problem by, quote, unifying the exchange rates, which basically involved devaluing the rial's official rate to 42,000 to the dollar, and then making it illegal to sell it for anything less at currency exchanges. This didn't work either, because currency exchanges just stopped selling dollars altogether, and the fact that the rial could no longer be converted into other currencies pushed it down further. By July, the market rate was about 80,000 rial to the dollar, and from September onwards, it traded above 100,000.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to move this along. Let's see what he has to say about this.
It accelerated.
Haven't seen this whole video yet.
On January the 29th, the day after US strikes against Iranian targets in the Middle East, the rial plummeted 15% in a single day to 580,000 rial to the dollar. As anxieties about a regional war in the Middle East receded, the rial recovered to about 550,000 to the dollar in early February. But it's since fallen even further, reaching an all-time low of 602.
Okay, so yeah, it's pretty clear things have not been going well for Iran's currency. Not just for the last 6 months, but for all time, it would seem. I had no idea just how bad it was. It somehow passed by my attention without even noticing up to this point. Okay. Well, we just learned something together, chat. How do you feel about that? Okay. Yes, this is a video. Another Associated Press video. This is entitled Uber Eats launches robot food delivery service in Tokyo. It's from 2 hours ago, so it's very recent. Well, folks, the robots have officially taken over. It appears to just be a cooler with wheels and lights. So maybe I may have spoken too soon.
In which areas that will be suitable. For now, we are testing Nihonbashi area. We believe that with the sidewalks, everything, it's going to be suitable. Eventually, tall buildings too, it can be useful because it may integrate with the elevators. You may be able to deliver up to offices, etc. So although the robot is autonomous, so you actually don't need an operator. It can run by itself. It can know where to go once you upload the map locations, right? You can navigate exactly how to get there. But there's always a human operator in the background watching the robots to ensure that in the event of any...
That seems so wasteful. Why even build the robot if you have a human watching the fucking robot? What's the point of that? Somebody explain that to me. Because I know that the intention of all this stuff is to remove workers from the workforce, eventually. Right? That's the intentions of all of these sort of inventions like this. Right? Let's do it self. But then you need somebody to watch it, and it's like, you're just making it more complicated than it needs to be. Just pay that guy to bring the food there.
See, that's very quick response.
Can't it be stolen? Oh, definitely. I think it makes a lot of sense that this is happening in Tokyo right now and not somewhere else. I think we know what would happen to something like this in most American cities. It would either... I think all the things that happen to this thing.
So, yeah, it's robot out there, but there's a human in the back, right? So it's really safe operations.
One person can monitor multiple robots. Interesting. Okay, yeah. I suppose that's true. In fact, as he said, there was somebody monitoring it at all times. So that, in my mind, makes it as one person per robot. They didn't say anything else, so that's kind of where my brain is going to stay at until somebody actually shows me otherwise. Just another way to jack up profits and undercut drivers, or to just remove them completely. This kind of stuff is just basically going to increase profits and CEO pay and coder pay, which, hey, I mean, you know, if you're a coder and you're not a CEO and you're just trying to get by in life, well, that might be good for you, but is it at the expense of the rest of society? Maybe.
これからやはり高齢化が進みますし、人材不足というところがすごい問題になっているので、こういう試みがあればそういった問題を解決しますし、都市部だけじゃなくて、特に過疎地とかそういった田舎の方でも活用できるのかなと感じました。
Yeah, and I mean, Japan does absolutely have an aging population. America has the same problem, right? But I guess here's my question: is the way to solve that crisis to get robots to do it, or to start paying young people what they deserve to do the work, right? Based upon supposed capitalism, right? And it's just, you know, it just doesn't seem like the right direction to go in my opinion. Which is why I'm probably going to continue to criticize stuff like this. Uber Eats Japan is collaborating with Mitsubishi, which happens to be not South Korea chaebol level, but it's close. Okay. Oh, that's it, folks. That's it for everything, and now it's Palestine time. Okay, this next video is Associated Press video entitled "Biden Urges Gaza Ceasefire Deal Before Ramadan." Yeah, more urging from Biden, so brace yourself. Wait, why didn't you go? Go.
This is AP News Minutes. President Joe Biden says it's crucial a temporary ceasefire deal for Gaza comes together before the start of the holy Muslim month of Ramadan. An Israeli airstrike killed at least 17 people in the southern Gaza city of Khan Yunis Tuesday, as talks on a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas ended without a breakthrough. Voting across the U.S. continues as Super Tuesday gets underway, with more than a dozen states up for grabs. President Biden and challenger Donald Trump are poised to have the biggest day of the primary campaign, moving them closer to clinching their party's presidential nominations.
What does that even
Officials say
mean?
2 adults and 3 children.
What does that even mean? First off, Biden was basically just immediately nominated by the DNC. Like there's been zero discussion up until today, effectively, of there even being a race. There's not a primary if you don't actually cover it. People are too dumb for that. 100%.
Killed when their small plane crashed outside downtown Nashville. Air traffic control
Okay. Well, this is. I mean, it's more news.
runway
I guess
for
we'll finish.
landing, but the pilot said
But
the
it's
plane
not
would
really
not
what I was
make
talking
it.
about.
In Pompeii's.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Welcome back, Pitchfork Dragon. Okay. Now we're gonna get serious. Just wanted to hear Biden's latest take. Now, this video is from a few weeks ago. I don't know if you all saw this one, but this one kind of like just blew my mind. Somehow I missed it, and this is how some Palestinians are attempting to transport water from one place to the next when they actually manage to find or get water somehow. This is how they've been moving it.
Archaeologists
Well, at least
discovered
some of them. I don't know if you saw that, but he just dragged that through a puddle of blood. Basically just hiding in alleyways and trying to avoid being shot. Just think about that. It's already had water shut off by Israel, right? They're lacking, any real infrastructure. There are wells that exist in Palestine, which is, one of the main sources aside from water from Israel. So, you have to go find a well that hasn't been destroyed by bombs, right? And then get it into containers that haven't been riddled with bullets, and then try and drag it through puddles of blood in the street from behind buildings so you don't get shot while trying to bring water to your family and your friends. That's crazy.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Okay, this next video is this is entitled Israel is My Land, Soldier from Los Angeles, and it's discussing Not all, of course, but, you know, some people who are clearly not from Israel that are either fighting in the war, serving in Israel's government, and it's a quick one. Doesn't go into too much depth, but I think you get the point pretty quickly.
Let's see where the Israeli government officials are actually from. Poland, Ireland, also Poland, Serbia, Ukraine, Morocco, Iraq, Morocco, Tunisia, Morocco, also Moroccan, and also Moroccan. And let's also look at their former prime minister's country of origin. American, Ukrainian, Russian, Lithuanian. And he's from Poland? Yeah, you get the point.
But what about the soldiers?
From Switzerland.
I'm from Sweden.
From Brooklyn, New York.
From Los Angeles, California.
From Miami, Florida.
From Palo Alto in the San Francisco Bay Area.
From San Francisco.
Arrived in Israel 4 months ago from Cape Town, South Africa.
From Atlanta, Georgia.
Florida, USA, Tampa Bay.
My name is Eitan. I'm a lone soldier from Atlanta, Georgia.
My name is Hanan Linder. I'm from West Hempstead, Long Island.
I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, and something that we take very seriously is hospitality.
I grew up in New Jersey my whole life.
I'm Yael, originally from South Africa.
My name's Jacob.
Yeah, I think it was a private plane, like a Cessna, that crashed, BCAT.
I'm 24 years old, originally from Orange County, California.
My name's Ariel. I'm from Clifton, New Jersey.
My name is Gideon. I'm 23 years old. I'm from Bergen County, New Jersey.
What's up, guys? Isaac here. I'm 25 years old from Naples, Florida.
Hi, my name is Eden. I'm from Los Angeles. I'm serving in the 611 Battalion to make...
Yeah, so I think you get the picture.
sure that it's all clear in our land.
This is my country, this is my home, and I'm doing something for it.
I'd like to join the...
Okay. Hold on, I gotta check one thing here real quick, chat. I'll be right back. Meanwhile, you can all hang out by the pool for a second. Okay. I'm back. Oh, welcome back, Snicks. Okay, next video is actually, there are going to be a couple of videos here that are from a couple of different Hollywood actors that spoke out in the last few weeks on Palestine. First, we're going to start with Mark Ruffalo. I don't know if you caught this one.
Tell us what the badges mean.
This is a fuck. Why are some videos so much louder than the other ones? It boggles my mind. killing me.
Peace Lily, and this is a emblem for Artists for Ceasefire, which is calling for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. There's 1,200 Israelis dead and 2,700 Palestinians. We've come to understand this bombing isn't working. We're not going to bomb our way to peace, and all we're saying is, you know, what's wrong with giving a ceasefire a chance? We have 1 million refugees on the border of Rafah right now who are looking at another bombing surge, and we have 400,000 people starving to death right now without any humanitarian aid being able to get in there. So we're asking the leaders of the world, especially President Biden, to demand a ceasefire, a lasting ceasefire, and give peace a chance instead of just the continued bombing, the escalation of violence, and what will soon become a regional war that America will be dragged into.
Okay, and just because it was him, I figured this clip was fitting.
Dr. Banner, now might be a really good time for you to get angry.
That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry.
Okay. All right. Next one is from Liam Neeson, who's actually a UNICEF ambassador. 2,700. What are we talking about? Sorry, I missed what's happening in chat.
Hello, I'm Liam Neeson, a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador. Here are 5 things children in Gaza need most. Protection. For children in Gaza, there is nowhere safe left to go. There needs to be an immediate end to the killing and maiming of children and the safe release of all abducted children. Life-saving supplies. The delivery of aid is a matter of life and death. Children are suffering from malnutrition, disease, and dehydration, and desperately need clean water, food, shelter, and medical supplies. They must have safe passage to access this aid, and the aid workers need to reach them safely. Access to essential services. Children with severe injuries and diseases are not getting the treatment they need. Hospitals, shelters, water, and sanitation services are a breaking point. These must be protected, and supplies must be allowed in to repair damaged infrastructure. Funding. Despite the extreme challenges to delivering aid, UNICEF and its partners are committed to stay and deliver. But the longer this conflict draws on, the more needs will grow. Funding is critical to children's survival. An immediate humanitarian ceasefire. The cost in children's lives of this epic humanitarian catastrophe is unbearable. The fighting has to end now.
Yep, he's right.
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you are looking for ransom, I can tell you I don't have money. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills.
Okay, alright. Just trying to provide some levity for this difficult situation. But, yeah. Liam Neeson was 100% correct about that one. Undoubtedly. Let's see what is next. We're gonna go to this video from 2 days ago. Actually, no. Let's go ahead one. I'm gonna go ahead one. I go to this video from Double Down News of Yanis Varoufakis discussing the genocide in Gaza.
Are responsible for these atrocities in Gaza. And my question to my friends, especially in Germany, who object to the use of the term genocide for what's happening in Rafah as we speak, is this. For how long are you going to permit your guilt over the Holocaust to justify, to legitimize, and to weaponize the genocide of the Palestinian people? How many rivers of Palestinian blood need to flow before you feel cleansed of your guilt over the Holocaust? We have to stop sitting on the fence, because that makes us complicit in a crime against humanity. The Israeli right has managed to hide behind the specter of the Holocaust with immense efficiency, to co-opt social democrats, liberals, progressives, anti-fascists in a manner that their own fascism, the fascism of the Zionist right, of the Netanyahus, of Likud, they've succeeded in effectively gaining immunity. In Germany today, you can only talk about genocide if you support it. Israeli ministers are completely free to talk about a greater Israel from the river to the sea. That's genocide of the Palestinians. But if you oppose the genocide, you cannot talk about it. And that is all done under the cloak of identifying anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism. Once upon a time, that would not have been possible. Once upon a time, Willy Brandt, the Social Democrat Chancellor in Germany, or Bruno Kreisky, the equivalent in Austria, talked very sensibly about the need, on the one hand, to support the Jews' right to live in peace and without fear of anti-Semitism in a manner that is balanced out by Palestinian rights. Today, that is simply not possible. Our leaders in the West have to understand that they cannot be liberal, they cannot be democratic, if they support the idea of an exclusively Jewish state. What would they say if I were to support an exclusively Greek Orthodox Greece? I think that I would be immediately denounced as anti-European, anti-liberal, anti-democratic, a xenophobe. Bear that in mind. For centuries, we Europeans, not just the Germans or the British, we have collectively persecuted the Jewish people. We have effected one pogrom after the next. And then at some point, we, the powers that be in Europe, decided that this is a time to farm out the Jews to a land which is declared empty, along with the Zionist ideology. Zionism started with a slogan, a land without a people, for a people without a land. That harks back to white settlement. When the British disembarked in today's New South Wales in Australia, they declared Australia to be terra nullius, an empty land. By assumption, the Aborigines, the natives, were not humans. And then they proceeded towards their genocide to take over the land. The Zionist slogan, a land without a people, is again the first step towards the dehumanization of natives and essentially a proclamation of a genocide. We Europeans need to take responsibility for what is happening across the land of Palestine, from the river to the sea. I don't care about what kind of state solution we have. Universal human rights from the river to the sea, for the Jews, for the Palestinians, for the Bedouins, for everyone. The manner in which the Western media have been presenting in juxtaposition the war in Palestine, the massacre in Palestine, because there isn't even a war, this is just straightforward massacre, with the war in Ukraine. It is as if they wanted to put on display their toxic cynicism and hypocrisy. When a hospital is bombed in Mariupol, which we should condemn, that is a crime against humanity. When Putin switches off the electricity supply in Ukraine, it is a crime against humanity.
Are we really going to sit by watching these appalling war crimes being committed? Are we going to watch innocent civilians being slaughtered? Or are we going to do something to actually stop Putin and stop him soon?
When a hospital gets bombed in Gaza City, it's self-defense. It was inevitable. What can we do? The inevitable repercussion of the Palestinians' own guilt. When Israel switches off the water supply, not even the electricity supply, the water supply, the press present this as the inevitable solidarity of the West to Israel.
There are 2.3 million people squeezed into a 32-mile stretch of land without power, without water, without food. You cannot deprive the Israelis and Netanyahu of the urge for revenge. They are going to take awful revenge. You cannot blame the Israelis. And I'll tell you what they're going to do to Gaza. They're going to turn it into a car park.
For centuries, we've known that the powerful like to discriminate between fashionable victims and unfashionable victims. The victims of our friends and the victims of our enemies. But never before have we had a global media campaign for violating the very basic principles of truth-telling and genuine reporting of facts on the ground. The West talks about total victory of Israel and total victory of Ukraine. There can be no total victory in either battlefield. A sane humanity would pause and think about the rationality of never-ending wars. All these hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars, euros, and British pounds that are being spent on bombs, shells, rockets, drones, bullets, grenades that are killing children as we speak, both in Gaza but also in Ukraine, is testimony to the gross irrationality of our species, and in particular of the system of government that we have, which allows these decisions to be taken without any consultation of the people. Because I have no doubt that if the British people, if the German people, if the Russian people, if the American people were consulted, there is no chance in hell that they would condone this kind of expenditure. And we should realize that never-ending wars are the objective of arms dealers and of politicians like Netanyahu, like Putin, who do not want the war to end for one simple reason, because they will cease to be leaders of these corrupt regimes. Moody's recently downgraded Israel's credit rating. It's not going to make a difference today or tomorrow. But I remember the struggle against apartheid in South Africa. Those of us who were calling for a boycott, a series of sanctions and divestment, we were being met with derision. And I remember Barclays, Ford, and the whole of the financial sector in the City of London doing its utmost to ensure that the creditworthiness of South African white capital would not be jeopardized. The first signs that apartheid in South Africa was under pressure was when the credit rating of South Africa started being diminished. It was the first chink in the armor of apartheid. I truly hope that Moody's downgrading of the Israeli apartheid state and its economy is going to be a similar harbinger of the demise of the last apartheid state to be standing. In this day and age,
You need a beer from seeing the comparison between Ukraine and Palestine? Yeah, well, a lot of Ukraine is still standing at this moment. But the fact is that they're both experiencing some difficult stuff, but one of them is receiving way more aid and way more support in every way possible, and that creates a very inequitable situation. Don't I need a beer? I think I'm gonna get through it. I'll be okay. I get through it most days. I do need something to drink, though. I am somewhat parched. Where are we next? Oh, this is good. Yeah. So this is next. This is from France 24 about mounting anger in Israel over the military exemption for Orthodox Jews, who are some of the only people that have been protesting against what's happening in Palestine. Not that Orthodox Jews don't have their own set of issues, still patriarchal sort of nonsense, but at least they got their heads on straight about Palestine. Oh, just realized I'm on the wrong screen.
יש בישראל ציבור של כ-20% מתושבי המדינה של אוכלוסייה חרדית שלא מתגייסים לצה"ל, רובם הגדול לא עובד והם לא נושאים איתנו בנטל.
השאלה הכי מוכרת זה סוגה של נשים. כי הצבא אומר, אם אני מגייס הרבה חרדים, התנאי המוכר של החרדים זה שלא ישרתו נשים בסביבה, המפקדות וזה. והרי אחד מהעקרונות שצה"ל עסוק בהם זה שילוב של נשים. בקרב הרבה אנשים יש תחושה לא נוחה, תחושה של חוסר הוגנות, שמשהו באמת לא צודק. לא יכול להיות שאנחנו לא חלק מכל הסיפור שעם ישראל נלחם, נהרגים, נפצעים.
אנחנו מחנכים את הילדים שלנו כמו שחינכו אותנו ההורים שלנו. אנחנו מפחדים ממשה רבינו ועד היום. אנחנו מפחדים על הילדים שלנו. הם רוצים לשנות את הדרך שלנו. אנחנו נלחם על זה בכל מחיר.
Check. Check. What the fuck? You really can't hear me right now? What is going on? Wait, it's working? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Words. Press 1 if you can hear me. might have to check something. Wait, you can hear something. Is that what you're saying? Press 1 in chat if you can hear me. 1. Okay. Well, maybe, hold on, I gotta check something then. Oh my god. Can you hear me now? I just realized what happened. Okay. I think we fixed the problem. That was unfortunate. I definitely was talking that whole time. Oh, it's annoying. I don't even want to go back through it. Just remember that the Orthodox Jewish community has its own sort of patriarchal problems, and that while they are pro-Palestinian, or at least not necessarily pro-Palestinian, they are at least anti-genocide and anti-being in the IDF. So for that, you know, they deserve respect for some portion of that. But I guess my point is that we can't, you know, say that there aren't some issues there. But yeah, apparently I was trying to talk that whole time and nobody could hear me, which is so good. I don't even know how long that was going for. I must have misclicked something, and so on this screen, my mic was muted this whole time, or for some period of time. I don't know how long. Hopefully not the entire time. Has every time we're on the screen, does it just sound like I'm not talking at all? Is that what's been happening? Because if that's the case, fuck me. Oh, I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know, chat. Don't tell me. Okay, I'm gonna push forward. Oh, stretch. Wait, it's been like that the whole time? Where it's just me not talking and we're just watching videos? Well, that's nonsensical. That's not a stream. That's just a restream. That's not what this is about. Fuck me. Yeah, why? Hopefully it happens somewhere midstream. That's my feeling. I feel like somebody would have mentioned this sooner. So we're already 2 hours in. So it must have happened like within the last... I feel like it happened like the last 30 minutes. Okay, this is just from a day ago. And this is from a Hamas official saying that neighboring countries need to help.
We're breaking into our scheduled programming to take you to Beirut, where the Hamas spokesman Osama Hamdan is speaking on the ceasefire deal or not. Let's listen into what he has to say.
Who are deceived of the peace and those who are deceived of the U.S. role as a mediator to achieve peace in the Middle East, you need to reconsider all of this. And Ramadan must be a holy month to support the Gazans, to support the resistance. The resistance is still the option of the Palestinian people and of the nation. Finally, I ask Allah Almighty to help this union and to help this conference and to unify the imams of our nation to achieve the reconnaissance of our nation. Our nation must be together, working together as they are asked by Allah Almighty. A big salute to the great people of Gaza, and may Allah Almighty reward the people of Gaza forgiveness and mercy. And those resistance people, the lions on the ground, they have done a lot of things, and they have proved how strong and resilient they are to the powers, to the Palestinian powers and faction. Let's say Ramadan is the month of...
You got my back? Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. This whole situation is concerning. And not that I don't think that... I just... the second that I started hearing about Hamas asking for like the nations around Israel to get involved, I started having like flashes of World War III. Okay, all right, I'm okay. It's just like, oh boy. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. It needs to be stopped right now, and the people in Gaza need supplies. But I don't think any of us want to see what happens if everybody genuinely starts going to war in that region. That is a recipe for disaster. You think you're left? Pitchy is right that you're on the left? I'm confused. Are you chatceptioning each other right now?
Jihad, and we can continue this in Ramadan, and we will follow the steps of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and we will do our best. We will take a lot of principles from the month of Ramadan on how to support the right and to how to seek justice, and Allah Almighty is great, and most of the people don't know that. It is jihad, victory among them, and peace be upon you all.
Okay, let's listen to what what's his name has to say.
The agreement, which is about the way the hostages will be released and the number of Palestinian prisoners that Israel detains that are actually incarcerated in Israeli jails. Now, Hamas is not happy with that side of said agreement. The exact minutiae of the details are still under wraps, but also adding to all of this, we have a scenario where the US is hosting Benny Gantz. And Benny Gantz is himself a part of the war cabinet and a former prime minister. He's in the US to talk to the US vice president and various officials in the US. Now, the US vice president has called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, using some of the strongest language from Washington since the start of Israel's war on the Strip. Now, Kamala Harris says that Palestinians in Gaza are suffering a humanitarian catastrophe. She says that a ceasefire is essential to secure the flow of much-needed aid and the release of the captives.
I take it back. It's been 5 months now. How has it been 5 months now? How has it been 5 months now? I just did the math in my head. I'm pretty sure it was 5 months. Am I losing my mind?
Scale of suffering in Gaza, there must be an immediate ceasefire.
For 6 weeks, you freaking... Like, I love how this is the strongest language that's been used by the administration up to this point, and somehow it's still not enough. It's been 5 months. Holy fuck. Holy fuck.
On the table. This will get the hostages out and get a significant amount of aid in. This would allow us to build something more enduring.
By the way, you might not be aware of this, but the United States has a secret military base in Israel. Well, it's not that secret, as I'm apparently, aware of it. But yeah, they we happen to have a base there, so we could already be helping people from not dying. There will always be turmoil. Let's hope not. Huh? Fingers crossed. Next video is another Al Jazeera video, actually, and it's entitled "More Misery in Gaza City as Israel Attacks Continue."
Now, talks are continuing in Cairo, aimed at reaching a ceasefire in Gaza. The framework proposal would see female, sick and elderly captives released in exchange for a 6-week truce. The US says Israel has more or less agreed to the deal, but as those talks can...
Whether or not you have feelings about Hamas one way or another, which I'm sure we all do, it's important to hear what they have to say, as they are supposedly the goal of Israel to eradicate, as well as the other side in negotiations, essentially, because the PLO isn't involved in negotiations. It's just Hamas, right? And so it's imperative that we know what they're saying, especially to other Middle East leaders, you know, to at least be aware of stuff, you know.
There's no end to Israel's bombardment on the ground. People in Jabalia refugee camp are searching the rubble for survivors and bodies after a series of blasts. At least 8 Palestinians have been killed. More than 30,500 people so far have been killed. Now Palestinians waiting for food have again come under Israeli fire as those aid convoys arrived. Several Palestinians have been injured by Israeli forces in the Kuwait roundabout area of Gaza City. Only a few people were able to get some boxes, which included water, flour and other items. Now, the trucks left carrying some of those injured by that gunfire. Al Jazeera's correspondent Ismail Al-Ghul was at Kuwait roundabout before Israeli forces opened fire on people waiting for aid.
We are now in Salah al-Din Road near Kuwait roundabout, where the humanitarian aid from South Gaza arrived. In this area, the Israeli forces have committed the so-called flour massacre and opened fire on Palestinian civilians who were trying to get flour from aid trucks at the Al-Nabulsi roundabout in the west of Gaza City.
Today, we got some aid. We found water and cans. Water is fine, but we need food for the children and the elderly people. The holy month of Ramadan is coming soon, and we need flour to bake bread.
3 trucks of aid for 700,000 people.
They speak about the aid every day. They're deceiving us. 3 or 4 trucks of aid for thousands of people. My son told me that he's hungry and he couldn't wait anymore. My children get up hungry every morning and I've nothing to offer them. This isn't life.
The citizens' hopes are very high that more and
Let's chat. So what are you saying over here, chat? You have to hear them out. Exactly. You don't make peace with your allies. The only way to make peace with somebody is to actually listen and discuss. That baby was definitely dead. Toddler. Yeah. I'm not sure the distinction is all that necessary, but I appreciate your accuracy of language. There's always been conflict off and on over there in your lifetime. Well, I don't know how old you are, Snixabea, but I would assume that it's been much longer than that. But that doesn't mean that it has to continue that way. If we thought that way, we would never make progress in anything, ever.
more trucks will enter Gaza Strip, but still, the number of trucks carrying aid is very limited.
Ismail Al-Ghul, Al Jazeera. Hani Mahmoud, our correspondent, joins us now on the phone from Rafah. And let's just begin with the ongoing strike.
Okay, you know what, maybe we'll finish this one. This one's pretty... it's very recent and relevant.
On convoys of aid, it seems to be relentless, Hani.
Yes, Sahel, and the fact that right now the situations are very, very critical in Gaza, the northern part of the strip, given the famine is spreading really quickly across that part of the Gaza Strip,
just for
where
instance,
we have more people.
Just because this line of thinking is bugging me. If you were to think that way about everything, right, there'd be people during the time of slaves, right, in America, but in other places as well, if you want to go there, but it, you know, that would have their entire lifetime owned slaves or known slaves as being slaves, and that would be all they knew. And if they were to think in the same way, we would still have slavery today. If we were to live our lives according to that sort of philosophy, we would still have slavery. Women still wouldn't be able to vote. I mean, democracy might not even exist. I mean, I don't even know how far back I have to go to make that point, but there's no way to make progress if you insist on the current paradigm being unchangeable.
Particularly children, vulnerable groups, and victims, largely been victims of this genocide, or are dying of dehydration and starvation. And also, there's a great deal of frustration, and that is echoed by a statement by the Civil Defense Department in the Gaza Strip that stated that the mechanism of aid delivery, as well as the ongoing restriction by the Israeli military on the ground to obstruct aid delivery to largely hungry population in the northern part of Gaza Strip is humiliating. And alone it is dangerous. We're talking about the fourth time now in less than a week, aid trucks are being targeted.
Sure, and Ireland. Okay, Pitchforks, thank you for for adding more detail. I appreciate that. Oh, God. Well, I feel like I've lost my train of thought in this video, so I'm just going to move it forward. Just because I've been responding to all of you chatters in here with your thoughts and suggestions. What else we got here? Oh, yeah, this is from 7 hours ago. Although, hold on, I gotta skip forward, I think. Twice.
China's military spending.
I don't know why I didn't move that video back. I have to skip that for later.
Justice is our
Whoa. Okay. This actually... Why am I over here? Go back one. This get... Oh shit, I think this got made private. I had a video here that I wanted to watch, but it's been made private in the last 7 hours, or 3 hours, because I added it to my playlist. Just couldn't have been more than 5 hours ago, I think. So yeah, and that time it's somehow been made private. I don't know how or why, but yeah, okay, let's see here. Okay, yeah, this is a Middle East Eye video. Just this is of pro-Palestinian protests in Los Angeles. Hamas is not Palestine. That's 100% true. Hamas is in Palestine. Yeah, factually accurate.
Justice is our demand! Justice is our demand! Justice is our demand! Justice is our demand! We will honor all our martyrs! We will honor all our martyrs! All our children's sons and daughters! All our children's sons and daughters! We will honor all our martyrs! All our parents, mothers, fathers!
Okay, I just saw this chat, but you know, I gotta respond to this. Okay, you know, wireless. You know, I like you, but you know, sometimes you make these arguments that I don't necessarily agree with, and this one I definitely don't. So you're suggesting that if Hamas gave up control to the Palestinian Authority, everything would end, and it's a very optimistic, but sort of pessimistic. I don't know how to even describe it in adjectives, but my problem with that assertion is partly that the Palestinian Authority has a really low like approval rating in general, and there's a problem with handing it over to them, and that main problem, not their lack of authority or popularity, the main issue is that the country isn't even like connected. It is currently separated by Israel, by roads and settlements and walls and checkpoints, and you know, like how do you unify a country behind one government that isn't a country, that isn't unified by land, and has another country basically keeping people from traveling between the two places, the West Bank and Gaza? And so it's just, for me, I'm struggling with this sort of suggestion that somehow giving things over to the Palestinian Authority would change everything. I mean, Israel has actively tried to keep the Palestinian Authority from being effective, right? And I would recommend you look into that.
President Biden.
Okay, this video is from very recent. It's from 3 hours ago. And this is footage of Israeli protesters blocking food convoys from getting to starving civilians in Gaza. This is the BBC News finally paying attention to the genocide.
Has warned Israel that there are no excuses for not allowing more aid into Gaza. The US military has released more footage tonight of another humanitarian aid drop in Gaza, 60 bundles of food, which they say provide more than 36,000 meals. The United States says a quarter of the population is now close to famine. Our senior international correspondent Orla Guerin has sent this report from the Israel-Egypt border, a warning it contains upsetting images.
Sometimes war kills slowly and quietly.
That's horrifying.
Hunger attacking the tiniest bodies.
I'm sorry, Chad. I had no idea that
the
you were going to have to see
Al-Adwa
that.
Health Centre in Rafah is filling up with malnourished infants, like Ahmed, who has lost half his body weight during the war. Children who survive the bombings may not survive famine. But here in Israel, some blocking a border crossing today. Family groups with their babes in arms, determined to stop aid that is desperately needed by families in Gaza. They pushed past border police, as they do twice a week. Among the protesters, Yael Sabriago, who had to hide from Hamas on October 7th and who has a loved one trapped in Gaza. This is my uncle Lior Rudayev, she says.
Here's a question that I wonder if some people like this are considering. If you have a loved one in Gaza and there's no food in Gaza, do you think that the hostages are gonna somehow magically feed themselves? Hostages need food too. Hashtag hostages need food.
He's been a hostage for 151 days. He's got a heart condition. He hasn't had any medication for 151 days. Why aren't the hostages getting humanitarian aid? The commander says, I'm opening the border today. Not today, says the protest organizer Reut Ben Haim. And for a few hours, they halt the aid effort, limited as it is.
Yeah, what's the point of that? What the fuck is the point of doing this? There's already just not going in. They're making a fuss for no good reason. The IDF is doing a plenty good job of not letting aid in.
Turning into a confrontation now. The border police are threatening to drag the protesters away. They've been telling them they have to move, that they can't stay here. But the protesters are determined. They don't want a single aid truck to get through to Gaza. You are a mother with a young baby in your arms. Do you feel any concern for the plight of the mothers and children in Gaza? Because the UN is warning they could starve without more aid.
They can get all the aid they want. Release the hostages and they will get all the aid, everything, on condition that the hostages will be released.
But the ordinary people of Gaza aren't in a position to release the hostages, and yet you're blocking the aid that could save their lives.
I have real sympathy for the civilians in Gaza.
Jesus. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Karens in other countries. Oh yeah, they exist in other places.
But the ones who are hurting them is Hamas. Any truck that goes by will not reach civilians.
Back in Rafah, aid did not reach 12-year-old Yazan Al-Kafarna, who had cerebral palsy and needed good nutrition. Here's how he looked before the ravages of war, before his family had only scraps to feed him. His mother says he used to eat and move and laugh and play. Yesterday, Yazan died from malnutrition. Orla Guerin, BBC News, at the Israeli border.
Jesus Christ, that kid looks like a literal skeleton. That is so disturbing. Okay, I'm gonna pull myself together after that. That was rough to watch. And there's worse stuff that I've seen recently, so it's like, which thing do I even cry about? Painful. Okay. What do I have next? Oh, wow. Alright. Well, then I think this is going to happen then. Now, this is going to bother people. I can almost guarantee it. Well,
now
some people.
For a rare...
Maybe not all people. But some people for sure. It's probably going to upset me to watch it. But
Israel,
I am going to comment on it as I go here. But this is something I've been kind of looking at here. You're saying it could stop right now? Once again, are you trying to claim that if Hamas handed power over to the Palestinian Authority, that'd be it? Israel would leave? Is that the claim? Because I really just don't get why you're trying to harp on that claim. It could stop right now, undoubtedly, and there's a lot of things that could have been done up to this point by the U.S. By Israel themselves. They could have taken a moment and not genocided people, right? That could stop it right now. They could choose to do it. Israel's in power of this whole situation. So if you want to blame anybody, blame Israel. Blame the IDF. Blame Benjamin Netanyahu. Blame the racist Likud party that is in favor of all of the stuff that's happening and are in fact... Have I fallen asleep? No, I haven't fallen asleep. I'm just prevaricating right now. Good to see you, Mitty. Good to see you. No, we made it to the end of the stuff that I had ready for today. Now we're gonna delve into something that I've been working on for a little bit, and it's not finished at all. And we're not gonna do it in the way that like right now. It's complicated, but basically, I've been deep diving some of Sam Harris's content since October 7th. And yeah, all right. What was it called? Oh yeah, all right. This is from Sam Harris's YouTube channel podcast. Episode number 338, The Sin of Moral Equivalence. And this, I gotta tell you, people, this thing is riddled with some real nonsense.
I want to say a few things about recent events in Israel. I'm sure I'll do future podcasts about this. and speak with a wide range of relevant experts. But for the moment, I'd like to say something brief that stands a chance of being useful as we watch the initial expressions of support for Israel begin to decay as it wages war in Gaza and perhaps beyond. As many of you know, I've spent years talking about the clash, as I see it, between Western civilization and Islam.
Yeah, no shitting, Sam. No, like, seriously, that's his entire niche. He carved it out of frickin' marble, okay? He went out there and said, this is my spiel. Western religions are better than Islam. And I'm here to tell you that if you have racist sentiments about Muslims, I am here to prove them all right for you.
Specifically, I've spoken and written about the connection between the actual doctrines of Islam and jihadist violence. Of course, this violence has fallen out of the news in recent years, especially since the collapse of the Islamic State. Even I've stopped thinking much about it. But I've been under no illusion that the problem has gone away. Now, those of you who have been following my work for 20 years know that I've said everything I have to say on this topic, ad nauseum.
Oh, yeah.
And
No, it's very much ad nauseum.
Don't be creepy.
Periodically repeat myself for the rest of my life, because eruptions of jihadist violence and the attendant secular moral confusion about it will be with us for generations. However, I don't want to rehash any of my criticism of Islam here. I'll just briefly remind you of what I believe, which is that there is no possibility of living in peace with jihadists. So whether we want to admit it or not, we are perpetually at war with them. And we must win a wider war of ideas with everyone both within the Muslim world and outside it who is confused about that. And they're
So basically, what he's saying is that the ideas in Islam are uniquely worse than the ideas of Judaism or Christianity, and he's going to tell us why here, which is super exciting. Ugh.
Legions of the confused. And there's no place on earth where the truth about jihadism is more obvious or excruciating, and the moral confusion about it more reprehensible than Israel today. But leaving all of that to one side, for the moment I'd like to make a very simple point that really shouldn't be at all controversial, because it doesn't prejudge any of the questions that people might disagree about.
That's the most disingenuous thing he says up to this point, because he's about to get super like excruciatingly prejudgy. Okay, like fully prejudgy. That's his plan. He's got like a list of judgments he's ready to tell you about.
To agree with me about Islam, or about the role that it plays in inspiring conflict. The point I'm making now says nothing about the causes of the recent violence in Israel. And yet it cuts through all the arguments and pseudo-arguments that attempt to paint some moral equivalence between Israel and its enemies, or to justify the actions of Hamas as though they were a response to Israeli provocations, to the growth of settlements, or the daily humiliation of living under occupation.
Right, because there's no way that you could possibly justify people being upset about provocations or settlements or daily humiliation under occupation. Those wouldn't be justifiable reasons to be upset. Can't justify it. Nope. Those things are totally within the bounds of acceptable behavior, according to Sam Harris, so he's going to move on immediately.
Incidentally, there was no occupation in Gaza.
Oh. Well, then I guess we can just move on.
There hasn't been an occupation there since 2005, when Israel withdrew from the territory unilaterally, forcibly removing 9,000 of its own citizens, and literally digging up Jewish graves. The Israelis have been out of Gaza for nearly 20 years, and yet they have been attacked from Gaza ever since.
Now, part of that is kind of true. They did remove Israeli citizens from it. They did remove graves from Gaza. And then they proceeded to build walls around every single part of Gaza covered in sensors and barbed wire, 20 feet up and 10 feet down, placed military settlements, essentially. And that's one thing that we're going to get into later through this whole situation, because basically, I mean, if you think about it from the same perspective that it's being told by the media and by Sam Harris here, like, you know, Hamas is hiding behind civilians and all this other stuff. Well, guess what? All of these Israeli military bases along the wall of Gaza have settlements right next to them, have them around the bases in some cases, that where civilian infrastructure and apartment buildings and homes are surrounding it like a castle. So don't talk to me about it's gonna get worse. Yeah, BCAT, he is the worst, but he's gonna get worse.
But even a statement like that wades too far into controversy.
No kidding.
I want us to step back. Whatever you think about the origins of this conflict, whatever you believe about the role that religion plays here, or doesn't play, whatever you think about colonialism, or globalism, or any other ism, whether you're a fan of Noam Chomsky or Samuel Huntington, you should be able to acknowledge the following claims to be both descriptively true and ethically important.
So you know how Sam Harris said at the beginning of this whole soliloquy that he wasn't going to be prejudging? Well, he's about to give us approximately 30 or so prejudgments, and I'm being kind of generous with him. I could say it's closer to something like 40 or 50 prejudgments, but I was like, you know, I'm going to try and help out Sam Harris. We got to try and be nicer to this guy. I mean, he's clearly having a hard time. So, you know, I'm sorry if I'm adding to that, but, you know. So, you know, I took it upon myself to knock it down to about 30, it would seem. Ethically important. Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, he's going to get worse than that. 100%.
In history, there are people and cultures that harbor very different attitudes about violence and the value of human life. There are people and cultures that
it's not people's. The way he says peoples and cultures really sounds super Nazi-like. Like he's a full-on eugenicist. Like the way he talks about different people is gross. And he's going to do this for a while. There's like 10 minutes left of this thing.
Rejoice, positively rejoice. Dancing in the streets, rejoicing over the map.
Now, I'm compiling footage, and I have footage of Israelis rejoicing and dancing in the streets, drinking together over the massacre of Gazans, Likud members, you know, saying ridiculous things. And it's, you know, it's incredible that he can even claim that somehow there are different attitudes about violence and the value of human life, right? And the fact is this came out 5 days after October 7th. This was October 12th when Sam Harris recorded this, and he claimed that, oh, completely different. You can't even compare the two, okay? Israel has restraint, and they value human beings. And then we've watched them literally attempt to genocide an entire people on TV here on this stream, and it's crazy, and it's gonna get worse, I promise. Good to see you, Soul Life. Obsolete.
Of innocent civilians. Conversely, there are people and cultures that seek to avoid killing innocent civilians and deeply regret it when they do, and they occasionally prosecute.
I have seen zero evidence of regret from any Israeli officials, IDF, spokespeople for the government, former, you know, it doesn't, the list goes on, right? And I've heard them all talk, and in none of those speeches do I hear concern for the lives of Palestinians. Nowhere in those do I hear them deeply regretting what's happened. And I would point out that I have an article right now, whoops, didn't mean to do that, from Haaretz, Watchdog, under 1% of Israeli army probes between 2017 and 2021 yielded indictments. And that while some soldiers have been charged, even less are actually prosecuted. It's nuts. Okay, I'm going to continue listening to this gobbledygook.
Imprison their own soldiers when they violate this modern norm of combat. There are people and cultures who revel in the anguish of hostages and prisoners of war.
They haven't been prosecuting themselves, but they are being prosecuted somewhere else. I'm trying to think of where it is. Oh yeah, the International Criminal Court.
Who will parade them before cheering mobs and often allow them to be assaulted or raped or even murdered. They will desecrate their bodies in public.
I don't know if you've seen the footage, but there's actually footage of a tank dragging a Palestinian by a 50-foot rope who is clearly dead already, just dragging him through the desert and like down a road. It came out shortly after Israel started bombarding and invading Gaza, but it is disturbing. So Sam Harris's claim that somehow it's Islamists who revel in the anguish of prisoners and treat prisoners of war with no dignity. Well, there's too many examples of this. And if you've seen any of these IDF soldier TikToks, they are filled with IDF soldiers mocking, desecrating graves, and it's gross. We all seen the war crimes. Exactly. But Sam Harris here 4 or 5 months ago was saying, oh, no. You are all wrong. All of you are wrong. Israel's special.
And all of this carnage is a cause for jubilation. Conversely, there are people and cultures who find such barbarism revolting, and again, would be inclined to prosecute anyone on their own side who took part in it. In short, there are people and cultures who revel in war crimes, and who do not hide these crimes or their celebration of them, but rather proudly broadcast their savage.
By the way, if you'd like to check Sam Harris on that suggestion just now, you can obviously go to TikTok, but the IDF actually happens to have a YouTube page. So if you want to see any of the things that IDF has done, at least the stuff they're proud of, it's all over the internet. You can just go straight to YouTube at Israeli Defense Force, and you'll find it. You will find all the footage. So celebrating on social media doesn't seem to be specific to any group of people. Sam, I feel like you're really failing us. You're supposed to be an intellectual who thinks big thoughts. Come on, pal.
This is from 12 Rules for Life.
For all the world to see. Conversely, there are people and cultures who have given us the very concept of a war crime as a sacred prohibition and as a safeguard in the ongoing project of maintaining the moral progress of civilization.
Well, I would argue that it's made a sacred prohibition in Israel as children have to enlist in the IDF at 17. So that seems to me like a sacred prohibition. I don't know, Sam. Seems like everybody's doing it.
At one point to concede, and this will absorb all the nuance and nonsense that may be percolating in the brains of many listeners.
Oh, God, that's what it is. It's just percolating nonsense in my brain. Oh, that's... Wow.
Arguably the greatest work of nonfiction of the 20th century.
Thank you, Sam and Jordan. My God, if I didn't have you two geniuses here, I'd have all these things percolating in my brain. I wouldn't know what to do with them. Good God. Whew. Heroes.
It is, of course, true that we in the West have been on the wrong side of these dichotomies.
By the way, if anybody here is just tuning in, I'm going over something. This is actually, I'm not going to use this footage most likely, but I am working in the background on doing an entire takedown of this video, which is complete nonsense. Came out 5 days after the October 7th attacks, Sam Harris's little podcast here. And I happen to have... I've got so much evidence against the stuff he's been saying up to this point that I am feeling like I'm losing my mind, but trying to get through it. What are people saying? He's been he has been a disingenuous Islamophobe who's gleeful at being able to paint all Muslims with a broad brush of terrorism. Yeah, because it's convenient, it's easy, it's you can wrap it up with a bow and give it to George Bush or one of the other presidents, all of them basically, and send them on their way. Painting everyone of a race or religion with a broad brush is called something. Yes, it is. There's a word for it. There's a word for it. What is that word?
In the past, most Western armies, including Israel's, have at one time or another been guilty of war crimes. And if you go back far enough, all of human conflict was just a litany of war crimes.
So
you don't have to go back all that.
This is Sam Harris saying that because history, war crimes are all acceptable, so let's move on from them, okay? Because they might happen, and it's not really a big deal unless it's Muslims, and then we have to do something about it because it's serious. And that's basically his gist on this situation. He creates this sort of false equivalency of saying, oh, because some bad shit happened way back and happened, in the last 5 or 10 years, that's in the past, and we gotta stop thinking about the past. That's stopping us from being better.
There's no point in you betraying your future self to gratify your present self. It's a stupid game.
It makes so much sense now. See, so what we gotta do is completely ignore the past so that the future winds up being Sam Harris's utopian vision.
Far, in fact, to find large pockets of Western culture that were morally indistinguishable from what we now see in much of the Muslim world. If you have any doubt about this, study the...
I'm sorry, but I have to stop it right there, too. It's crazy. Every single thing he says is just nonsense or racist. Like, oh, God. Ew. I don't even want to respond to what he just said. But it's just so fucking wrong the way he frames everything, suggesting, oh, that Israelis have never done anything wrong, and if they have, it's dismissible. But Muslims, oh, they are a problem kind of people. That's what it is.
Photos of white mobs celebrating the lynchings that occurred in the American South in the first half of the 20th century, where seemingly whole towns, thousands of men, women, and children, turned out as though for a carnival to watch some young man or woman be tortured to death and then strung up on a tree or lamppost for all to see. Seeing the pictures of these people in their Sunday best, having arranged themselves for a postcard photo under a dangling and lacerated and often partially cremated person, that's one thing. But realize that these genteel barbarians
now I think
who consider themselves...
I think what Sam Harris is trying to do with this description of slavery and Jim Crow South violence against blacks is his hope to be able to get you to distance yourself or to relate with war criminals or with racists, and so that you will feel more comfortable moving into what he's going to get into next.
Good Christians often took souvenirs of the body home to show their friends. Teeth, ears, fingers, kneecaps, internal organs, and sometimes displayed them in their places of business. So I'm not claiming that there are permanent differences between groups of people.
He's saying that, but it's bullshit,
idea.
Is what it is. Okay. He's also trying to distance ourselves from the past, as well as getting you to relate to it in the same breath. The fact is, the guy does a lot of sort of run-on sentences, and that's part of his allure, I suppose. But the fact is that he's trying to get you to think, oh, people don't do this anymore. But we have real life, very recent examples of people doing stuff similar to this, right? As well as the fact it's like, who was it? Harlan Crow? Didn't he claim that he was trying to take like Nazi memorabilia like off the streets, but he really just has it like as like this collection in his house, which he like shows off? How far off is that from what he just described? Sure, it didn't involve any dead bodies, but it has the exact same fucking vibe. I collect Nazi memorabilia. You know, think about it, right? Like it is like it has the exact same vibe of saying I collect old slave memorabilia. You know, sure you might do a different accent when you say it, but it's still the same fucking vibe. Pitchforks. Good God, I'm not reading that.
That happen to be ascendant at any given time and place. I'm talking about beliefs and whole worldviews that come into being in one culture and have yet to come into being in others. The point, of course, is that if we recognize the monstrosities of the past, we should recognize the monstrosities of the present.
Like the ones that happened every single day, week, and month since he released this podcast that were perpetrated by the Israeli army. There's been almost near zero non-military casualties on the Israeli side since October 7th. Sure, October the 7th was a fucking atrocity. No one's here to say that it wasn't. But what's happened since then is a literal genocide. Okay? And, like, at this point, I don't think the two are even comparable. It genuinely is completely out of proportion, and anybody still doing it is fucking nonsense. Granted, this is from 5 months ago, so maybe as I go through this deep dive, I'll figure out that Sam Harris has realized that he's been wrong for decades. But my guess is he has not done that yet. Seriously though, it is funny what Pitchforks has said here. It is good. It is good. It's funny.
And acknowledge that at this moment in human history, not every group has the same ethical norm.
Because it really does capture. I mean, I'm going to try and say it, but it's so fucking good. It's too many words in one sentence. I'm not saying I'm saying the exact thing I'm saying. I'm saying the things that I'm saying, but I'm not saying that. And that's basically Sam Harris in a nutshell. I'm not saying I'm racist. I'm just saying things that racists say to tell you about racism and how it might not be that bad. But I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, if I'm talking from the perspective of somebody who would be making that argument. I'm not making that argument, though, because I'm Sam Harris and I'm an intellectual.
Its use of violence. For whatever reason, perhaps religion has nothing to do with it. Consider just one of these norms. Whenever an armed conflict breaks out, some groups will use human shields, and others will be deterred to one degree or another by their use. To be clear, I'm not talking about the taking of hostages from the opposing side for the purpose of using them as human shields. This is appalling, and it is now happening in Gaza. But it's a separate crime.
It's funny, because it was happening in Gaza. I actually saw some footage of IDF soldiers hiding behind prisoners of war. So, yeah, they were lined up in the street naked, blindfolded, and then IDF soldiers rested guns on their shoulders and walked them down the street. So, I want to say that Sam Harris isn't talking about this because he's not Nostradamus, and he wouldn't know that was going to happen. But man, it's weird because it's like the thing he's saying that we should be super like grossed out by happened, but the people that he likes did it. And that's just confusing me. I'm struggling with that. Jack. Can somebody help me with that? Because I'm really having a hard time.
I got boxes full of Pepe!
I'm talking about something far more inscrutable. It's astounding, really, that it happens at all. I'm talking about people who will strategically put their own non-combatants, their own women and children, into the line of fire so that they can inflict further violence upon their enemies.
Now, this argument is made by Sam Harris multiple times during this, and I've heard so many people make this argument since October 7th. But I would point this out, and I feel like I'm going to probably, well, maybe I won't, because I'm not big enough to really receive too much criticism for things. But, you know, I think that if I was bigger, I would probably receive criticism for this. But if you're going to say that Hamas hides behind civilians in Gaza, then the IDF hides behind civilians everywhere else in Israel. Okay? Like I already stated previously, there are numerous IDF outposts and bases around Gaza, around the walls that have settlements around them, next to them, and they patrol those settlements, making those settlements de facto targets. Okay? Only if you use the same logic that everybody else is using in regard to Hamas, right? Because Gaza isn't a very big place. It's fucking tiny, okay? And the dance festival that occurred was 3.3 miles away from the Gaza border wall, okay? 3.3 miles. That's half the distance of Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, right? It is fucking tiny. You could walk it in an hour and a half. And it, like, they put civilians there in harm's way. They had a fucking dance festival right there. In my mind, that is the sort of thinking of people who are both full of this sort of sense of hubris and entitlement that we see constantly out of the Israeli spokespeople, but like, it just illuminates how it's such a two-sided discussion out there, or a one-sided discussion out there, in the sense that only one group of people get to use human shields, only one group of people get to defend themselves, only one group of people get to have rights. And that seems to be Sam Harris's actual argument. He would like that to continue being the case because Muslims are scary people.
Knowing that their enemies have a more civilized moral code that will render them reluctant to shoot back for fear of killing or maiming innocent non-combatants. If anywhere in this universe cynicism and nihilism can be found together in their most perfect forms, it is here. Jihadists use their own people as human shields routinely. Hamas fires rockets from hospitals and mosques and schools and other sites calculated to create carnage if the Israelis return fire. There were cases in the war in Iraq where jihadists literally rested the barrels of their...
Here's the thing. If the IDF, if Israel didn't have the Iron Dome, people would be able to make these arguments all day about Israel. But since they have the technology and they have the money, they can protect civilians who are otherwise being put in harm's way because Israel has military bases fucking everywhere, right? The entire, like, basically, you know, like, it just, I struggle to even listen to Sam go on and on about this, which is why we have to keep stopping him. But I don't even, it's hard to genuinely, in real time, check him on every single one of the fucking bullshit claims he makes. And the fact is, in the last 5 months, practically everything he said has been turned out to be false. Just completely false. He's made a bunch of assertions, and about 1% of them might have been true.
...on the shoulders of children. They blew up crowds of their own children in order to kill U.S. soldiers who were passing out candy to them.
And very recently, the IDF blew up and shot, how many people was it? 115 people that were just crowding around trucks trying to get flour and food because they're all starving to death. We saw videos earlier today of children so emaciated that I shuddered. And he's like, oh, Israel would never attack civilians who just want food. Cut to, what is it, 2 weeks, a week and a half ago? What a fucking asshole.
Conversely, the Israeli army routinely warns people to evacuate.
Oh, I got so focused I didn't see all you chatters. Good to see all you people. Good for Gabby. AC's here, my dogs. So many peeps in chat. Hopefully I didn't miss any of you. Either way, it's good to have you back.
Before it bombs them. Of course, during times of war, it is common to dehumanize one's enemy, to describe them as barbarous and evil. And it's natural for ethical and educated
right, but that's
people.
That's the problem, right? He comes with this pseudo-intellectual vibe. He has a great vocabulary, and he's a good speaker. And a bunch of idiots hear what he's saying and think, what am I saying? I'm sorry, I got distracted by all these messages coming through. Stupid delay. What was I saying? Wait, Mitty, what are you saying? I'm countering Sam on human shields? You think it's unproductive? I'm trying to remember what it is that Sam's take on human shields even was right now. But I'm always open to criticism. But it's just my sense of things that Israel is using human shields. But I would love some more clarity on that.
To distrust such politically charged language. But pay attention. I'm describing concrete behaviors that occur on only one side of this conflict.
You think I've used the wrong premise? You could be right. You could be right. I'm reverse engineering the premise that's being used to claim that Hamas is using human shields. Because the fact is I haven't seen any real videos of Hamas genuinely using human shields. Right? Do they live in Gaza? Yeah, but it's a very, very crowded place. And so where is it they're supposed to wage war? Should they do, like military battles from whatever, like 1700 and go out into the open field and line up? I just don't understand how else to even counter the argument of the human shield narrative. And it doesn't feel like it's being effectively countered, I guess. The details of human shield tactics are irrelevant beyond that. And I see the point of what you're trying to get at. But I was essentially just trying to counter his point. And maybe I've gone too far, and I'll try and think on that situation for sure. And I mean, feel free to continue to to tell me how you feel about it. I'm totally open to it. It's not like I'm not willing to listen to sense, and if I'm wrong, then I'm always willing to check myself. I feel like that's kind of been my deal, I would say.
Consider how absurd it would be to reverse the logic of human shields in this case. Imagine the Israelis using their own women and children as human shields against Hamas.
Go one comment back. I think it's possible that one of your comments may have been automatically moderated, because I don't see one before that. Oh, there it is. I think. Wait, no, that's the same one. No. Yeah, that's my problem. It might be getting auto-moderated. So, I mean, if you want to, like, Discord message me, you have my Discord. You could always send it to me. Once you occupy a people, the human shields argument is moot. That's totally fair. That's totally fair. And, I mean, I guess I just didn't come at the argument from that perspective. And maybe I was trying to nitpick Sam Harris too much, and maybe I used the wrong tactics when trying to combat Sam Harris's nonsense here. As it just seems like every single thing he says is crazy talk. But you're right. Once you occupy people, the human shields argument is pretty moot, because those people are now being illegally occupied. But I guess for the purposes of the situation, I was just trying to not use that argument for every single one of these points, because I feel like you could use that point for basically everything Sam Harris wants to say about the Palestinian situation. But I think partly because he's not just focused on Palestine, but also talks about Muslims at large, and some of this other sort of amorphous stuff that he says. I got bogged down in the minutia. I'll admit that. And it probably, I'm going to assess it further for sure. I appreciate your words.
Recognize how unthinkable this would be, not just for the Israelis to treat their own civilians in this way, but for them to expect that their enemies could be deterred by such a tactic, given who their enemies actually are. Again, it's easy to lose sight of the moral distance here, which is strange. It's like losing sight of the Grand Canyon when you are standing right on its edge. Take a moment to actually do the cognitive work. Imagine the Jews of Israel using their own women and children as human shields. And then imagine how Hamas, or Hezbollah, or Al-Qaeda, or ISIS, or any other jihadist group would respond. The image you should now have in your mind.
No, it's just fucking crazy though. Like, because you hear what he's arguing, right? Like he's harping on this human shield thing, right? And he wants us to imagine it. He's telling us to imagine Israelis using human shields. So I'm trying to. And when I start trying to imagine it, I just see images of barbed wire surrounding settlements with women and children in it. And that for me is the frustrating part of the situation, right? Like if he didn't want me to, if he didn't ask me to imagine it, maybe I wouldn't have gone there. But but while I was going through this and he asked me to imagine it, I couldn't help but at least give that momentary question a thought. How about this? Sam Harris, just imagine if Israel has not occupied Palestine. It's a great point. Imagine that. Imagine that'd be really an interesting thought experiment. Go back 80 plus years and kind of redo history in some sort of parallel universe. That'd be very interesting.
Is a masterpiece of moral surrealism. It is preposterous. It is a Monty Python sketch where all...
See, I feel like he's cornered me into this, right? And while I totally understand what you're saying, he's doing it, right? He's claiming that it is so surreal, you couldn't possibly imagine it, right? But I don't know. I feel like it doesn't take that much effort. It's not surreal because it's kind of already happening. And while it's completely fair to say that the occupation of Palestinians basically makes all of these points moot, like he's still trying to frame it this way. This video got 400,000 fucking views. Okay, 400,000 people watched this. Now, hopefully all 400,000 people didn't watch it and think, oh, this guy makes a bunch of sense. But it's just crazy to me that some number of people listened to this with utter sincerity and said, wow, Sam Harris making great points again. Makes sense. It is a nice thought experiment, though. I am kind of like having a daydream right now, trying to think about what things would be like for us all right now if that were the case. No occupation of Palestine. Huh. I'm trying to think of what would have happened instead. Ah, boy.
All the Jews die. Do you see what this asymmetry means? Can you see how deep it runs? Do you see what it tells you about the ethical difference between these two cultures? I mean, there are not many bright lines.
See, and that's the thing that really bugs me about it, is that he asks us to draw this crazy idea in our heads, right? And then and then says that. And it's like, well, you know, like that seems a little asymmetrical of a take, essentially, right? Like if we don't do that postulation of Sam Harris's, the service of at least attempting to imagine that, right? Coming to the conclusion that they may very well already be doing that, and then you know, going to this other place, we have to accept that Muslims are a bad culture. Now, granted, of course, his argument and logic is completely flawed, but he moves through it as if it's nothing. and I feel like I gotta call him on it because it's just it's crazy talk. The legal responsibility is, yeah, of course. Yeah, it's on the occupying power. You're absolutely right. Doesn't matter where it is according to international law, the responsibility of them. Yeah, no, absolutely. And the ICJ has been proving that to us every day that they have a meeting. Or what do you call it? A hearing. No, it's absolutely, and it's a completely fair point that you're coming at it from, and I feel like you're being more, what's the word? Maybe not generous is not the word, but there's a synonym of that I'm looking for right now, I think, and I appreciate your take, honestly.
That divide good and evil in our world. But this is one of them. And of course, there's much more to talk about when considering the ethics of war and violence. And there's much more to be confused about. For instance, as this war proceeds, many people will consider the deaths of non-combatants on the Palestinian side to be morally equivalent to the kids who were tortured and murdered at the peace concert by Hamas, or to the hostages who may yet be murdered, and their murders broadcast on social media. But they're not. There is a difference between collateral damage.
Unfortunately, Sam Harris did not have the foresight when making this podcast to know, even though the IDF had already made a YouTube page about 9 years ago, he felt comfortable making the claim that none of the Palestinians' murders would be put on social media and celebrated by Israelis, but man, was he wrong. I mean, he couldn't be more wrong about that one.
Which is, of course, a euphemism for innocent people killed in war, and the intentional massacre of civilians for the purpose of maximizing horror. Simply counting the number of dead bodies is not a way of judging the moral balance here. Intentions matter. It matters what kind of world people are attempting to build. If Israel wanted to perpetrate a genocide of the Palestinians, it could do that easily, tomorrow. But
that fucking statement rings just so painfully in my ears. I don't know about you folks, and it's not about the volume, but it's about what actually happened. I mean, this is 5 days in, and Sam Harris is making the claim that Israel would never commit a genocide, and the fact is that they never would, because they're just better people, right? And that they could easily do it if they wanted to. Well, guess what? They're doing it, and it seems genuinely pretty easy, especially with all the tax dollars that everybody's been giving them to help out. So it's weird how Sam Harris kind of predicted the future, but like in some sort of a reverse way by saying the opposite. That happened. It's weird. It's very strange.
Isn't what it wants. And the truth is, the Jews of Israel would live in peace with their neighbors if their neighbors weren't in thrall to genocidal fanatics. In the West, we have advanced to the point where the killing of non-combatants, however unavoidable it becomes once wars start, is inadvertent and unwanted, and regrettable, and even scandalous. Yes, there are still war crimes, and I won't be surprised if some Israelis commit war crimes in Gaza now. But if they do, these will be exceptions that prove the rule, which is that Israel remains a lonely outpost of civilized ethics in the absolute moral wasteland that is the Middle East.
Wow. He just called the entire Middle East a moral wasteland. I mean, it's gross. It's gross. I struggle to know where to stop him on things, and I try to do my best because there's so much garbage in here. But that one just like it genuinely feels like he's just trying to instigate something when he says stuff like that. Like, what else is what is the intention beyond that, right? Beyond saying something so inflammatory as just suggesting that an entire group of people are just barbarians with no moral compass, and it's gross. Oh God, it's so hard to get through this. And the fact is there's a bunch more that I've been listening to, and like, it really doesn't get better. Okay.
That the government of Israel, with all of its flaws, is better than Hamas. To deny that Israeli culture, with all of its flaws, is better than the Palestinian culture.
Did you hear that? Now, I'm not going to touch the IDF-Hamas situation, but to suggest that Israeli culture is better than Palestinian culture is textbook fucking racism, okay? He doesn't even disguise it in this sentence. I expect more from Sam Harris. He's supposed to be a big ideas guy. IDF, or I was like a IDW freaking, poster child. Like, he doesn't even try to mask that statement, which is just verifiably fucking racist. And the fact is, if you go back and look at the photos of Palestine before the Nakba, granted, it was a long time ago, so things were different, but things have changed drastically ever since the state of Israel was created. And the fact is that it's just making things worse in the Middle East, not better. And for some reason, Sam Harris seems to think that it's the only sensible place in all of the Middle East.
Attitude toward violence is to deny that moral progress itself is possible. If most Americans are better
I gotta
than
go
their
back. I gotta
slaveholding
go back because actually this needs to be heard in entirety, I think, if I recall correctly.
Of Israel, with all of its flaws, is better than Hamas. To deny that Israeli culture, with all of its flaws, is better than the Palestinian culture in its attitude toward violence is to deny that moral progress itself is possible.
You hear that, folks? If you don't accept the premise that Israelis are just better than Palestinians, then progress isn't possible, according to Sam Harris. If you can accept all of these prejudgments that Sam Harris has come with, that he said he wasn't going to come with, then you're the fucking problem, okay? It's crazy. That is Nutburger's crazy town. Progress is impossible because you don't accept a racist premise? Sorry, pal, that's not the way progress works, not from my understanding.
If most Americans are better than their slaveholding ancestors, if most Germans today are better than the people who herded Jews into gas chambers, if the students protesting this war on your college campus, who are so conscientious that they lose sleep over crimes like cultural appropriation and using the wrong pronouns, if they are better than the racists and the religious lunatics that inevitably lurk somewhere in their family trees, then we have to recognize that there is no moral equivalence now between Israel and her enemies.
Wow. Just wow. It's fucking crazy that he manages to fit all of that bullshit into 14 and a half minutes. It's one of the most arduously painful 14 and a half minutes that I've ever spent. And that's the second time I'm doing it. Okay. By the way, you heard him right at the end. He said that the students protesting, if those students protesting the war on your college campus, who are so conscientious they lose sleep over crimes like cultural appropriation and using the wrong pronouns, then if they are better than the racists and the religious lunatics, and it inevitably lurks somewhere in there, because what he's trying to do is conflate the racists and the religious lunatics with them by genetics, because since they're related by blood, they're the same. So once again, Sam Harris, eugenicist, phrenologist, intellectual, coming with some of the worst takes you could possibly come up with. And unfortunately, a lot of those takes were proven false. And we've now witnessed some of the worst atrocities against civilians in the 21st century. I think maybe arguably the worst. I'd have to, I'm not going to say 100%, also because it's very fucked up to be doing that sort of equivocation, I feel. But I guess my point is that most of what he said in terms of the respect of civilians and of human life, of supposed Western values, have been thrown out the fucking window. Oh god, sorry chat, but I am I'm fired up over this video because it just says all the things that I feel like we've all kind of in many ways wrapped our brains around and decided are bullshit. But meanwhile, Sam Harris is pulling down millions of views like every month posting stuff like this, and it is crazy. And you know, I feel like a lot of us have kind of forgotten about Sam Harris, but he's still out there. He still has fucking influence, and he needs to be checked by someone, probably someone bigger than me. But you know, I'm doing what I can. You're Irish. Your family tree is pure and free from such bigotry, often watered by what does that say? That looks like something in Gaelic, which I don't speak, so I'm not even going to attempt it. I'm sorry to be torturing the choir, okay, everybody? I am genuinely apologetic for that. Sometimes the choir needs to be reminded the devil exists, okay? And that's what I'm doing. Well, I'm afraid that's about it for me tonight, folks. It's been a long day, and a long night. I hope you all have a fantastic day and or night, wherever it is you are on planet Earth. Don't feel like we fixed anything today, but maybe next time. Till I see ya, you stay classy, Galactic Stream Nation.
Person full of Pepe!
It's a bold strategy, Colin. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!